Morning, everyone. Welcome to University College London. I'm Iain Borden. I work here. We're absolutely delighted that London Calling are doing this forum event here. We're incredibly grateful to everyone that's come along on this pissy, rainy morning to UCL, and particularly for those of you that had a good night last night have also shown up this morning. So thanks to everybody here. Some of you know I work here. I've done my research on skateboarding. I'm an academic. I've written a lot about skateboarding. So it's just a personal pleasure to have everyone here. It's like all my dreams have come true. I skated a bit in the 70s. So it's just amazing to have everyone here. In a minute, I'm going to turn over to Don Brown, who's going to properly introduce this session. We're going to run this really, really informally. We've got some great people here to discuss, give us some memories, give us some insights, and so on. Don's going to explain exactly what's going to happen in a moment. We're going to run 2 sessions, about an hour each. There'll be a short break in the middle. Welcome again, and I'm going to pass to Don. Where's Don?
Thank you, sir. How's it going, chaps? You good? You good? I can't hear you! Shush! The louder you get, the higher they go! Remember that one? Welcome to London Calling, everyone. How amazing is this? Look at us. Pretty incredible, right? Did anyone ever think this was going to happen? I mean, last night it was it's an emotional thing, right? There's a lot of you guys haven't seen each other for a long, long time. And I definitely saw a few tears coming out yesterday and lots of hugs and kisses.
Where were you?
I was in the toilets. Yeah, exactly. But I grew up in Brighton, England, that second generation Pig City. Any other Pig Cityers here? Look at that, the fucking crew right here. How about LSD crew? Is there any LSD guys here right now? Oh, shit. Well, I just want to let you know there's going to be a big brawl in the parking lot at lunch against Pig City, right, Simon? You got some good, like, weird martial arts shit going on in your life, right? You can kick some ass. Oh, shit. That's a good point. We did win in Brighton when you guys all came down, right? Outside the cage. I think Steve Calling was telling me that one. But I've been really, really lucky to just have my life around skateboarding, and it's something that I think I share the same story as everyone in this room, as far as we picked up that damn piece of wood with 4 wheels, and it changed our life, and it's built friendships that we've had forever. I mean, there's a lot of people that I know that don't skateboard, and their lives are so damn boring. And they have no friends. It's kind of like being a freestyler today. They just have to, it's crazy. But it's amazing. Bod and I also work with the Skateboarding Hall of Fame in California. We used to work doing the IASC stuff, which is the International Association of Skateboard Companies. And yes, we always do fight to get English skateboarders in the Global Skateboarding Hall of Fame, and it will be coming. And I think this kind of event is going to help put English skateboarding on the map forever. We believe that English skateboarding is the biggest influence of skateboarding outside of California, and I mean, it's just got such a rich, vibrant culture. The family in skateboarding has just been such a huge imprint on the global scene. From back in the 70s all the way to today, with the people, the actual skateboarders, the media, the shops. I mean, we've definitely put a big thumbprint on the community. But just kind of going back to so Steve Douglas, that beautiful, sexy man over there, Chelsea. So Steve had like he had a pub crawl that each year it grew and grew and grew, right, Steve? And I don't know if I think you all know Steve. He can drink like a motherfucker. That guy, I've never seen drink so much. I mean, he can outdrink everyone here, right, Steve? You're going to prove that tonight. But last year I got to join one of his pub crawls with all his mates and everything, and then afterwards, I was blown away by just seeing friends I hadn't seen for so long. And then Steve and I were talking afterwards, and like, we got to do this. And it was, Steve was like, yeah, we're going to do this. And I am absolutely blown away. So Steve, Bod, and I, Bod Boyle, where's Bod? Oh, right there. Bod, another one. So we had a quick meeting, and it was just like, hey, we've got to do this. We're going to do it to another level than the pub crawl because we're going to outgrow every pub in London. And it's one of those things that's like, yeah, let's do it. But it's like there's only so much time in the day to do stuff because we all have other jobs. And just to let you guys know that everything that's being done here is completely non-profit, and we're not making any money out of this. It's purely for the love of skateboarding for everyone here. But the whole meeting was just. It was just that little foot in the door, opened the door, I guess, to where I really didn't know how big this was going to go to. And it's Steve Douglas. I've actually, as much as I've known him for years, I've never worked with him, but he is gnarly. Would you describe him that? He is a beast. When he focuses on something, his vision, he was calling the majority of the people in the room. He was like working 24/7. I don't know how the hell he did what he did, but what he did is bring us all together as one big family, and I think it's incredible. So thank you, Steve. We really, really appreciate it. You're phenomenal. Thank you. And this, again, is the first of many to come, so there's going to be more coming. I think the key for all this is for the discussion that came out is how, as skateboarders, Bod, Steve and I both, we all left England and went to the US, and we all ended up getting pro boards for Vision and Santa Cruz and New Deal and all the different brands. But the thing that is always important to us is the generations before us, because the generations before us were the inspiration of why we skateboarded in the first place. So if it wasn't for that first generation of skateboarders, we wouldn't be here probably right now. I'd probably be working at Waitrose, progress to the bakery department, maybe. But thank you guys. It's seriously, like I remember in Brighton growing up. Yeah, thank you guys. Okay. But just growing up in Brighton and seeing from a younger generation, like just seeing the influence in the magazines and looking through the Cage skate park in Brighton and just seeing this amazingness of the excitement of skateboarding, I really never knew that it was going to impact my life, and it's because of you guys. So thank you from me, and I know on behalf of everyone from London Calling. But I'm going to hand it over to the man, the myth, the legend, Bod Boyle, right now. If I can find it. So thank you guys. It's going to be a great day.
Hello, hello. All right. I'm going to do some quick shout-outs, and I'm losing my voice. First off, I cannot even attempt to capture everyone that helped in pulling off last night, today, the next couple of days. So I'm not going to attempt to shout out everyone, but there's a few key people that we really need to acknowledge that really have just, made this happen. So big up to everyone that jumped in and helped out. And then I'd like to acknowledge the following folks. So first off, skateboarding. We have to thank skateboarding. It's been instrumental to us. It's brought us all together over these decades and, touched all of us in different ways of, just adding to our lives. Massive respect to the riders up here, out here. You'll get formal introductions in a moment, but then also respect to the photographers that captured it and have, been an integral part of this. Iain and UCL, thank you for support. Amazing. I'm going to shout out a short list of the sponsors that really... So Charlie and the Pure Evil Gallery last night. He's donated his space. It's going to be up for a month, so go back, check it out. There's a lot in there, so please do that. Shiner Distribution, Power Distribution, 1976 Distribution, UCL Bartlett School of Architecture for hosting today. All of our sponsors that really made this happen. And then a special, much louder shout out to, our primary sponsors here. Obviously, Steve Douglas is a big reason why we're all here. Independent Trucks stepped up. Slick Willies, thank you very much. And Obviously Vans, massive support from Vans. But not just the Vans organisation, but a very, very special shout to Steve Van Doren, who, pause for a second, who constantly steps up to support parts of skateboarding that may not make sense from a business perspective, but it makes sense from a cultural support of the act of skateboarding. So big up, Steve. Yeah. Really, really thank you. And then the last few shouts, then you'll get to the part we're all here for. So there's this core group of people that came together. Many other people contributed time, but Don Brown, Iain Borden, Neil Macdonald, Rob Ashby, Winstan Whitter, the Read and Destroy Archive, just absolutely massive thanks to you lot. This wouldn't have happened. Everyone contributed so much, but there are 3 individuals that really took it to a different level. So Jurgen Blumlein from the German Skateboard Museum, who he created when you step into that room with all of the magazines, like you stepped into the 70s yesterday. All aspects were covered there. So incredible curation from Jurgen. And then lastly, there are 2 people that are, in my opinion, on the ultimate human being list for me, myself personally. But they have just been absolutely instrumental in this. So you've got Steve, who we spoke about. He's a nutter. But his vision really shaped this weekend, start to finish. Right? Started out as a meet-up at a pub, and look where we're at today. Just incredible. Massive and huge respect for just single-handedly reaching out to most of the skateboarders on here are here because Steve relentlessly tracked them down, searched them out, and got them here. So respect for that, Steve. Just big respect for Steve. And then Steve had a vision. Steve had an idea. But Dan Adams, who worked, who just worked tirelessly. It's not just the imagery in the show, in the gallery, the layout of the zine, what we're doing here today, but just really took Steve's vision and molded it and shaped it and created it into something that's just special. So thank you, Steve. Thank you, Dan.
What's driven all this work is the enthusiasm that these guys and you as an audience have shown for the whole project. So you also have to big up yourselves for the intense love for this stuff. It's madness.
Okay, so we're going to start with our first session. So first session, I'll introduce everyone in a minute. Well, we're going to ask them to introduce themselves as well. We're going to focus particularly on the UK scene. We've got another session in about an hour and a half's time where we've got James and Tony, and we're going to discuss a little bit more the kind of UK, American, international thing. But for the moment, we're going to focus particularly on what's happening here in the UK. And we've got some, well, the most incredible riders from the 70s to help us do this. So we've got Logos riders Ben Liddell, Simon Napper, Alex Turnbull. Benji Boards riders Jeremy Henderson and John Soplowski, Anne Kadirgiri, and Mark Sinclair. We've got Sheena, who's come in from France, and we will have on Zoom Mark Baker as well. So we've got loads of questions to do this. We've got millions of questions. We're not going to get through them all. We're not going to cover everything. So if your particular rider, your particular skate park, your particular bit of Britain doesn't get mentioned, we apologise for that. We're going to have a great time. We're going to get some stories, and we're going to get some memories, and we're going to hear some stuff we haven't heard before. Neil Macdonald, Dan Adams, and myself are going to be asking some questions. And Neil, I think you're going to kick off. I'll pass the mics to the people on the sofas as well.
Well, I was wanting to ask everybody just where they're from and what being here means to you, seeing each other again after, I think, in most cases, quite a long time.
Greetings, all y'all. Blessings. First of all, I just want to thank Steve, Tony, James, Tim Leighton Boyce, and all, first of all, Steve, then Steve. But I am thanking all of these people that actually, like you guys did, because like skateboarding is not something that we have as too much of a definitive perfect thing. So I'm from Long Beach, California. I'm not going to get into it all the way, but I came to London not necessarily wanting to be a skateboarder. I was just moved here, so I eventually learned that this place is very special. So.
Well said. Hi everyone, I'm Mark, I work in Waitrose. No, but first of all, man, thank you so much, everyone involved with this. Thank you, all the skaters here. It's amazing. It's like a time capsule that's exploded again. It's something really special. Skateboarding's always been special. I think that skateboarding it cuts all barriers, you know. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, you know, pink, blue or yellow. It's something that we all share together. We have that bond, you know, and it's a special thing. And I guess that's why we're all here. So, you know, thank you everybody. And Steve, thank you, man. And I love you, Jeremy.
Right.
Thank you.
Right?
So we're here with love for love.
Yeah, thanks to all the organisers. Yeah, it's fantastic. Brilliant idea. So I have to turn it on. So I use that.
Just.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have everybody here in the same place. People that we never thought we'd see again. Yeah, brilliant. I'm a bit nervous, you can see. I'm not used to this type of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, hi. But the question was what it meant to us to be here.
Someone spent attention.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough one, really, in a way. What I wanted to do is thank everybody, just like everybody has, because it's been an incredible experience, and it really brought home to me how lucky we all were to find that this particular spot in the world at that particular time in the beginning of a sport where we all would have been cast to the winds, otherwise. And I really didn't fully appreciate that until I came back here and saw everybody and met everybody again, and it's been awesome. So, thanks.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm Alex from Camden Town. It's really interesting sort of seeing everybody here because, I see Jules, Jeremy, and I keep in touch, John, Shea, and stuff, and then some of the guys, you don't get to see. But what is really incredible is that it doesn't really matter. It's like when I see my guys, see Paul, who I haven't seen for see Neil, who I haven't seen for 20, 30 years, it's exactly the same as the guys that I see regularly. We're just completely connected. And that's never going to change. And it's sort of the same, even with everyone in here. Even though I don't know a lot of you guys, or I might be meeting you guys for this, we're all connected. We're all sort of part of this same thing. And I think it's a very special thing. And I was sort of thinking that, in a way, I've been lucky to be involved in music and a lot of other things afterwards. But in a way, skating kind of came first. And it was kind of like before punk, and before hip-hop, and before rave, and all of that stuff. And yeah, we had youth cults, we had skinheads and Teds and all of that nonsense like in this country. But really, skating is really the first of the new things. It's like the beginning of the new culture, and you look at that now and what it's become and what it's gone on to influence. And so I just feel very blessed to have been part of that first wave, that was doing that right at the beginning. And I think it's a really amazing thing to be here with everybody, celebrating this. And really, the amazing thing about this, I was thinking it was only the guys, the next generation that could have done this because nobody else knew about it. And because it wasn't documented, there's hardly any, obviously we're very grateful to the photographers who did document that, thank God, but actually there's very little film or anything. So actually the knowledge about what went on here in the UK was only known by the people that came afterwards, that were the skaters that came afterwards. So they're the only people that could have done it justice. So big up you guys. Thanks a lot, man, for bringing us all together.
check. Hi, I'm Kadir, and I'm pretty overwhelmed by this whole scene. You know, it's been a real trip to actually see all my old buddies from all that way back. And it's been really touching, and I really want to thank Steve and all the guys for putting this all together, as everybody else has. But as Alex was saying, Alex kind of put it into the best words. You know, this was a kind of weird cultural moment that we sort of fell into, because there was, you know, in terms of youth culture, as he said, there really wasn't much going on apart from getting your head kicked in at Chelsea on a Saturday, or wandering around avoiding skinheads. But yeah, anyway, listen, I'm looking forward to hearing all the stories and checking out what everybody's been doing. Okay, thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Simon Napper. I pretty much echo everything that Alex said. He put it so perfectly. I've been humbled by this whole experience. It's been amazing. The guys putting it on, mind-blowing. The amount of love being shown is just blown me away. I'm a little bit deaf, so I'm a bit hard of hearing, so I might not hear every question or whatever.
It's all the demolition. It's all the demolition.
Hi, I think we're all really lucky. I think I'm one of the luckiest people here. I came to London for what was only going to be a year in 1977, September. I walked into Skate City, got offered a job. I was a bit pissed off at first. I thought I was moving away from the surfboard, you know, but I bought my skateboard. And what a year that was, you know, well, 8 months really was just so intense, so exciting, so life-changing. And so there's the flashbacks in my head have been going on since I got there yesterday, and still are really, really intense. And I know a lot of you have felt the same. And it's been, yeah, amazing. So, yeah, thanks to Steve and everybody else, and you lot for turning up. This is incredible. Amazing. Thank you.
And we've got Mark Baker on Zoom. Love for you, Mark. Mark, can you hear us? Can you hear us okay?
It's all a bit muffled, but it's all good. I can see you all out there. I'm catching every 10th word, but all good, brother. Modern technology, it's all good.
Okay, so, Mark, the question was, what does, well, introduce yourself in a line, and what does it mean? What does 70s skateboarding mean to you? And you know, seeing some of these people here again today. I know that you're a few thousand miles away from us, but not in the room. But there's a lot of love for you here in the room.
Thank you, guys. Well, first of all, congratulations, guys. Really amazing to see such a beautiful room. So many of my friends, cohorts, and heroes in that room right now. Sending you a lot of love from Bali, Indonesia. Wish I was there, but you know, just saying. Anyway, lots of love to you all. I'm trying to hear what you're saying. I think it's big shout out to Steve and everybody and the whole team for putting this together. I mean, my gosh, it's long overdue. You know, British skateboarding has you know, getting British skateboarding organized has always been an issue. And just remembering the history that, you know, and all the love and camaraderie from all of you there and all the ones that are still alive. I mean, we've lost a few along the way. I know there's a great turnout. I've been getting all the pictures and videos from everyone. I wish I was there. British skateboarding, I think it's been long overlooked. It's long overdue to recognize the talent, the energy, and you know, the sheer brilliance of British skateboarding. You know, I mean, I know we're eclipsed a little bit by the Americans. Are you hearing me? Skateboarding Hall of Fame in America? Because it's about fucking time. Oh, can't swear. It's about time that you recognize all the talent and energy and wonderful contribution the British skaters made to skateboarding worldwide. You know, with respect to the Californians and the incredible skaters, and I know TA is there today, my hero. You know, what British skateboarding did, what skateboarding did was take many of us kids off the street and give us something, you know, something to do, as opposed to, like, you know, the potential trouble we were all going to get into. And I know that a lot of skaters in the UK, you know, could have potentially ended up in all kinds of trouble. Skateboarding, you know, took our lives and gave it meaning. And you know, when we finally, instead of looking in the magazines and looking at those crazy guys from Dogtown and all those blue skies and the hair and the moves that they were pulling. When we finally got skate parks, I think, you know, British skateboarding next to America, California and other parts of America really was the best outside of America in the world, and it hasn't had the recognition that it deserves. Hopefully now this will be a platform to start that recognition. And it wasn't just London, and it wasn't just Pig City. Shout out Pig City, all my brothers down there. You know, it was Harrow and Romford and Bristol and the North. And, you know, and when I was lucky enough to tour with Tony and Jay, well, actually not so much Jay, but Shogo around, you know, there was so much talent in England, and it was never, I don't think it's ever really been recognized and appreciated outside of the British skate scene. But anyway, it's awesome to see everybody there. I'm going to try and listen to what you're all saying. Shout out, Alex, I miss you. All of you, Tim Dunkley, you know, Max Lobato, Phil, all of you. I love you all very much. And hi, John Sablowski. I see you there with no hair. And Jeremy Henderson, Pierre Kadiri, all of you. I mean, you're all fucking legends. So anyway, that's my piece. Love you.
Mark, thank you. Mark, thanks for everything. Thanks. You got a huge round of applause. I don't know if you heard that or not, but we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you later and ask you a bit more. Okay, cheers.
It's all good, baby. It's all good.
That kind of works, doesn't it? Sort of there. Mark on screen is pretty big still. So I'm gonna kick off. While everyone was coming in, we were showing that film Hot Wheels, which I think many of you will know was filmed in 1977, but then went on general release around the UK as it was a support film to Greece. So, you know, it massively, massively influential on loads of people. From some people, that was their first time they ever really saw skateboarding. But the most extraordinary thing about it was, you know, there's lots of bits in it. Crystal Palace is in it, Holland Park is in it, Trafalgar Square's in it. You know, some demos by the Hobie guys, but it's really those sequences at the end, towards the end at Skate City, which are kind of amazing, beautifully edited together. And, you know, in a way, I think it's actually one of the very few bits of moving image footage we've got left from that period. Some of us were just talking a bit earlier about bits of Benji boards, you know, stuff that might still be knocking around in vaults somewhere or under someone's bed. But for the moment, Skate City is really, the Hot Wheels is really the main thing we've got. And I just wondered how much any of you remembered of filming it. John, I think I was asking you earlier whether you remembered, you know, really filming it, you know, being filmed or taking part in it. Simon, I think you did a lot of the filming for Hot Wheels, didn't you? What do you remember of it? What was it like at the time?
Well, the cameras were big and heavy, so it was quite difficult following people. Excuse me, following people on the board when you got like a big camera. Oh, sorry. And also they had a board where it cut away in the middle, and they had a camera in that, and it was really difficult to skate without getting your feet in the way of the camera. And yeah, it was a mad experience, really difficult.
John, do you remember? I mean, you've got some great pictures of you doing airs and stuff in it, but you don't...
I don't remember noticing it that much when I was like very focused on just having a good time and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really remember noticing photographers and stuff that much. There was, you know, unlike now, there wasn't like instant gratification. You couldn't see like, you know, hey, can I see the picture? So it was just kind of like, there's the guy with the camera, but it doesn't mean a whole lot to you at the time.
None of it really existed. So I think for us, you know, we were just trying to skate. So when somebody said, oh, they're going to film you, it didn't really mean, and it was a very abstract concept. It was like, yeah. And so like, you know, like I said, I haven't seen a proper print like of that till just now, like seeing some of my bits in there. And I think one of the things I was really thinking about last night for the first time was, imagine if we'd had good parks here. Because, I mean, no disrespect to the parks in the UK, but you could only ride 20% of them. If I think about Skate City, you think about Harrow, you think about Rolling Thunder, you know, these amazing long half pipes, but you could ride like about 15 feet of them, and the rest of them, no, but you never seen a single picture of anyone down the other end at Harrow. Do you know what I mean? It's just so it just really did occur to me that it was incredible. And even the Black Bowl at Skate City, I mean, it was like there was one line that you could take in that, and that was it. And so it's kind of amazing that everybody adapted to that, because that was what we had, and it was incredible for us because we didn't have anything. But I just suddenly thought last night, well, imagine if we'd had a Carlsbad or something like that, like how the skating could have got then, because a lot of the parts
Did you
were really
guys
bad.
feel that at the time? I mean, you know, Skate City was a huge thing, you know.
I remember thinking that it was bad news because Skate City made so much money so quickly that any developer would turn up, think, oh, all I've got to do is pile up rubble, pile some sandbags around the top and render it, and I can make a fortune. So for a year or two, and they bloody did, we had shit skate parks everywhere. I mean, everybody remembers, probably, well, we do, that awful transition, the sandbag around the top of the rubble transition. That was bloody everywhere. So it sort of held us back.
Or ones that never opened. Russell Square.
Yeah, they never.
We would break into and skate, and then
Tell me about that, Jeremy. I don't know that one.
I think Thunder was like the first most progressive. Don't you think? Rolling Thunder made a big move.
Tell us about that.
Yeah.
The Russell Square
Yeah.
skate park.
Yeah, the Russell one was Jeremy. I think it was.
You guys want to hear about that?
Yeah.
Was the Russell Square one? Was that this in an NCK park?
The reason I mentioned Russell Square is we had great skate parks in London, right?
Yeah.
And as they got better with the people that built Gillingham, Harrow, and Rom,
Yeah,
etc.
but those were the good ones when they started happening. Yeah.
But in the beginning, like before the GLC did like, you know, Edgware Road and Meanwhile and this and that, the beginning, come on, is all Meanwhile here. And other than Wandsworth Roundabout and South Bank and spaces that are natural terrain to ride, the beginning, as Kadir would can
Meanwhile's
elucidate,
kind of the place. It was kind of
is
very community
this guy right
organized.
here. And Meanwhile, it was a BMX track that, you know, me and Levis and Shabowski and a few of us, we went over there and tried to ride it when it was dirt. It was hard pack. Meanwhile, one, right? Where Aswad played live and direct. All right? So that was a special place for skateboarding. And it's still, it's where, like, it's got a clockwork orange intensity and intelligence. Trellick Towers above it where he grew up. And so skateboarding is grimy, gritty, and hard and real. And it wasn't, you know, some fancy, like, wealthy surfer sport here, as my impression is, as an upper middle class guy who moved here. Skateboarding was real, and it was distributed amongst the real here beautifully. And the parks, and sometimes tons of British entrepreneurial energy came at it, and it was trying to say, hey, collectively profit upon it, distributional, et cetera. You know, Brits are great at moving things around. Import and export is arguably their invention. I'm Irish, so I'm sincere.
Can I ask about how the
No disrespect.
facilities or lack of affected the UK style compared to what was happening in the US? Obviously, Ben, you had a surf background, but there were a lot of people here who hadn't surfed and were skating things that were not surfy.
Well, I think that's the main difference with British skateboarding. I think I mentioned it in Winston's film, is that I think a lot of Americans grew up with this sort of surf connection. But I think most kids in the UK then, we'd never seen surfing. We didn't know what surfing was. So we sort of started skating because of skateboarding. It was completely unrelated to surfing. But I've got to say that I've sort of recently become friends with Craig Stesick. And those articles, when those articles came out, that first one, the sequential overdrive, it just changed within a week. And you've got to remember now that you couldn't buy Vans, you couldn't buy tube socks. So Jeremy might bring back a skateboarder magazine, and that magazine would be borrowed. You'd have 1 week with that to absorb the Val Surf, the Kanoa ads, and sit there and fantasize about what board, if you had the money or the wherewithal to get it, that you would get. So you just sit there. But actually, when that article came out, that just changed everything. Because before that, it was like Logan, Ski, kind of like that kind of like, you know, the kind of stuff. Yeah, and then it just in 1 month it just changed, and really it was Tony and JL and Shogo for me, like as yeah, but that it just changed. That changed. So I think in terms of the style, it wasn't really like the style. Obviously, it was very influenced by what, you know, we had to look at, and I think the Dogtown thing was, and Craig's articles, I think, and the photography and that imagery with all the cholo and all of the graffiti stuff. I think that was like the beginning for us, where we were looking at this and just being like, I don't know what this is, but I just want that. So I think in terms of the stylistically, that was the influence of style. But I think the parks, we just had to work around what we had, and try and look rad, like in, like, you know, in things that weren't necessarily like designed to help you do that.
But in
You know.
those early days, in those very early days, so you guys were on it like quickly. So what were you feeding off? What was giving you the, if you weren't coming from a surfing background?
Each other.
like you're there skating, like what's driving your progression? Because it happened fast. So.
But I think inevitably, it's like it's a weird sort of thing, isn't it? It's like a brotherhood, but also, I guess, and in a way, I guess what's interesting is like with early hip hop, where you have graffiti, DJing, MCing, dancing, and it's very much a kind of battle context. It's kind of friendly, but you're kind of, and I think that's one of the really interesting things for me about skating is it's performance-based. So much of culture has just become like just bullshit, and people masquerading, pretending they can do this. But on a skateboard, on a mat, doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, doing martial arts, on some lino if you're breakdancing, on some decks if you're a DJ, you can't pretend.
No.
You stand up and you either can do it or you can't do it. And so I think that's one of the beautiful things about skating, is that it has that sort of thing where you are brothers and you're all there together and you're all doing it, but you're all trying, and it's not like you're trying to impress each other. You're trying to impress each other, and you want your guys to go like, yeah, that was dope.
I think, skateboarding, for me, and I think for a lot of people, maybe even unconsciously, it's not like there was any thought about, there's people talk about style and approaches and stuff like that, but it's the most direct. It's one of the most direct sort of ways you can have a relationship with like the world around you and with like gravity and speed and velocity. And it's like I think certain types of people, like really crave that kind of connection. And surfing is definitely something like that, or snowboarding, or but for us, it was. You find that place where you can really be a part of your world.
There was a line Mark said earlier this morning about gravity. What was it?
Yeah,
gravity, the relation, which everybody around. When you say that as a skater, all the other skaters go, yeah. That is what it's about, isn't it? Relationship to gravity is like what drives trial and error and watching each other. Yeah.
But did you you all kind of pulled together? It seemed to me very early on like this. So how did you?
We were thrown together because there was only Skate City for 4 or 5 months only.
So Skate City was the place that kind of brought you all together.
And then South Bank, when Skate City shut, it was raining. That was it.
Jeremy's saying no. So.
No, I was just kind of grimacing. It's working, Joe.
Intestinal gas.
Yeah. I don't know if we can be definitive like that. Like John said, there's no matter where you come from in your approach to skateboarding, whether you grew up luckily to be around Santa Monica, and like Tony, and to know or about the surfing tradition, as Alex mentioned, Craig Stessick.
Trying to surf Cornwall in the 70s, dude, you had to be like a fucking like a Viking.
Right. So again, I wasn't trying to say surfers are all soft South Bay, like looking at each other's shorts, whether they're tight or long, or they're Santa Onofre. I grew up around surfers. First skateboard was given to me by Hobie Ultra in 1969, directly to my brother, to myself. Like, here, have a rocker, super surfer. So I grew up, luckily, my godfather was Wayne Schaefer, the head of the Pochi Surf Club in San Juan Capistrano. And that's a tradition that goes above Herbie Fletcher. So I'm actually part of a surfing lineage. So luckily I've been an ambassador for you guys as a surf skater. So I give all of that energy back to you guys. Like, my grandfather was a friend of Duke Hanamoko and was taught how to body surf backwards. And my mom worked the first clipper flights from Frisco to Hawaii to surf. So I come from a surfing skate tradition. So James Cassidy stayed with me, he came here. I was lucky to tour with Stacy Peralta when he came here for GNS. I saw a lot of how skateboarding evolved within the relations of surfing. And I will say, you have your alpine sports slalomist aspect. You have people who are like Scandinavian Skis shop in 57th Street in Uptown New York. They're selling to wealthy skiers who can afford this. But London, as I said before, skateboarding was distributed on a more loving, diversity was embraced. And it wasn't pictured like, oh, you can't afford this GNS, unless you were going just to alpine sports. So there was a snob level of skateboarding, but there was also the other levels, Grand Tex and horrible, just like we had bad skateboards in California. Black Knights being sold in supermarkets for $9.
Regardless of whether you're a surfer or not, skateboarding comes from the roots of surfing, therefore, you're a sidewalk surfer. So if you're in fucking London, it doesn't matter. You're still a surfer.
That's what I'm
Because
saying.
You're just surfing concrete.
That's what I was saying.
I like the
didn't
way-
have to meet Martin Potter in Cornwall.
That's a good point, because there's a wonderful bit of footage that's kicking around on somewhere of Kadir
Yeah, surfing.
going over London Bridge, and you are pumping and weaving and working your way through the people who are all going to work. It's a very beautiful thing. And you have this kind of, it seems like almost innate natural flow, but you didn't grow up near a beach, right?
That came from
Yeah.
that came from going to see surf movies with my friend Max Kirsten. Then we'd gravitate to these evenings at Fulham Town Hall, which were put on by Rodney Sumpter. Yeah. But literally, it was like a kind of weird play at A Nation Will Come. There was like Australians, Americans, people from Cornwall, and they'd all gravitate and watch these films. And within those films, there was a couple of skate sequences. And you'd see the McGilligan Freeman bits from Five Summer Stories, and you go, blimey, that's amazing. There was Greg Weaver, there was T.A. skating, all of those. It was mind-blowing. And that was where so we kind of aspired to being like Larry Bertelsmann, being like Jerry Lopez, or at least I did anyway at that point. That was my kind of thing, to get kind of low, and, I wasn't, and then that kind of applied to South Bank and to a certain extent to Skate City, but that was my kind of grounding.
I think you're right. There was a UK style. Jeremy put it really well earlier. When Jeremy said it was more real, he said it was really real in London. That's such a good way of putting it. Yeah.
West Country, I mean, you have to be grateful. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, there's a surf. Martin Potter lived and grew up in Cornwall. There are great surfers in England. I used to go to Cornwall. Excuse me? Yes, there are. So yeah, it's not an opinion I'm trying to share. And again, I was just trying to make evidently clear.
No, you were right.
Is about how skateboarding is not necessarily like, how fancy a surf shop is living nearby you that you can afford.
I think you're right about there's a London style that may well have been influenced by seeing films, but maybe not the experience of actually surfing. And yet there's a much more, as you said, real street-level approach to skating in London. There was at the time when I first came up, but like I said earlier, I had to leave the beach, and I was skating at South Bank one of the first times I went down there. And I think it was Clive Manderson, but you guys were all there, said to me, "Hey, you surf, right?" And he could tell from my low style, arms flapping everywhere, that I was a surfer. So there was a difference, if you like. It does stand out as a surf style, and a more urban. So
my first time that I went to South Bank, I'll say, I saw this guy, other than Kadir. I saw John Povey, and I saw Adam Peacock and Casper Peacock. Yeah. And they all had immaculate surf style. Yeah. Like, as far as skateboarding goes, like, as far as what I understood, I was like, these guys look like,
I
really
didn't know there was a difference.
I was like, damn, a teal dragon lip side. I was like, whoa. Yeah. So it's not like the people say behind, ahead. It's like there was style, talent beings here already. They were going and surfing Barbados instead of Puerto Rico or Hawaii or Santa Monica.
Ben, you not a conscious thing, I don't think, to have whatever style any of us have got. It's not. Is it conscious? I don't ever. It's just a natural thing.
But
a
Ben,
little bit sometimes.
Ben,
you're very stylish. Like
you're from West Country, but you're in London.
Yeah.
So you're not London, but you're London. Most of the people here are from London, so you've got that kind of international scene. The guys of you that were American, but were in London. But then you've got people like Sheena, who's in Southport. Yeah. Up north, not connected to the London scene. What was it? Where did you get your inspirations from? Did you feel that you were surfing? I mean, you were, whether you knew it or not, because that's, as Tony says, it's absolutely embedded in skateboarding. Yeah. But was that conscious for you? Where did you learn your skateboarding, and who did you learn it from?
When I first got a skateboard, the craze hadn't started at all. I didn't get a skateboard because it was the latest craze. I'd probably seen it on some sort of American show on the telly, and I was fascinated with Californian things. So I just felt, well, living in Southport, I wasn't going to surf because it's very rare that the sea actually comes in. You have to walk about 3 miles out to find the sea. So skateboarding was the natural thing to do. Yeah. We used to skate on the promenade to start with. And we had about 4 or 5, what I call old guys, who were probably about 18 or 19 at the time. I was about 11 or 12. And I think they were surfers. Obviously not from surfing in Southport, but they were surfers. So we got our inspiration from them, which was a good thing, really. So we had somebody, even though there wasn't many skaters, we did have somebody to look up to who was local to us.
And what about development? You know, where did you learn your tricks? Was it all from Skateboard magazine? Did you come? You came down to London for the the Rolling Thunder shoot, but was it the mags?
Where did I learn? Basically, I think we just had a few guys who were really good skaters, and then we had people like Steph who'd come to Southport, and I used to base my style on Steph's style because I thought he was really good. And I think a lot of the Southport skaters based their style on the way Steph skated, so he's to blame for that. But as far as how I skated and how I progressed, it was just basically skating with the guys, and they were pushing me all the time. They didn't treat me like a girl. We were just one of the guys, and that's what. Yeah, I must have been a tough girl. I must have been, because I don't know. There was no. I had two other friends who skated, but they just sort of pootled about really, and they didn't, really go high up or anything. Like they were frightened that they might fall off, I don't know. But I wasn't frightened. I had no fear. I was either very fearless or very stupid, I don't know.
So,
but it worked.
I'm going to bring Mark in. Mark, can you hear me? Can you hear okay?
Yeah, I'm doing my best to hear what everyone's saying.
So the question is, surf style. Do you feel you were a surf skater? How big was surfing on you and the Pig City skaters? Is that something that you felt you were doing?
Well, it's a good question and quite a long one. The first people I ever saw surf were the rugby team of, Tim Dunkley and Jock Patterson, who were incorporating surf style into skateboarding. But these guys were so friggin' big on small skateboards we had back then. I will say one thing though, when it comes to the style of skating and the whole thing, look, we could only watch what they were doing in California from images in Skateboarder magazine. And I think that one of the greatest examples of real style. I mean, look, what could we learn from? What could we see? We could only look at the magazines and still images. There wasn't any friggin' video. And when Tony Alva came to England, and I think Tony's skating was really underestimated because they expected him to be doing tricks and pop outs and high aerial. Tony never did tricks. That wasn't his thing. I'm not going to speak for TA. He'll speak for himself. But when you saw that man, or that young man, in a swimming pool, and he went into a pool that no one had ever skated before. His hand tucked, his arm around the knee. He just floated the way he threw his arms. The man was magic to watch. Right? I think that all of us British skaters, including me, we were clumsy. I don't think we were surf style. I think our style actually wasn't very good. The only person I thought who really had style, you saw Kadir, Soblowski. The first time you see that guy with his hair flowing at Skate City, come on, that was the real deal. It was amazing. Jeremy too, and Kadir and Napa was crazy, and all the rest of it. But I don't think, honestly, we didn't discover style until we got introduced to the Americans about how it was. That was a purely California thing, and I think that the way that they dressed and the way that we dressed. They had all the pads and the rectors and the flyaway. They had all the gear, and they looked amazing, and their style was very surfy. I think, in the beginning, as we were doing our best to catch up, but we weren't very stylish. My aerials and pop outs were extreme, and the other skaters were doing incredible things, but we weren't that stylish. Let's be honest. It progressed and it became a lot better when we saw them actually skate. And again, I'll just revert it back to when Tony and I were on tour around England, and was like, well, why hasn't he done a 6-foot aerial like you did? And I was like, well, man, look at the guy fucking skate. It was beautiful to watch. I think we were a bit clumsy, but we learned quickly. As soon as we had some role models to watch and we had the American skaters come in, then we did it. Again, Kadir, John, with that hair, and he was doing his thing, and Simon was crazy, and Kadir. I mean, you know, I can't name everybody, and a big shout to all the London boys, but I think it was we learned style as we went on. But in the beginning, we didn't have the pools, but we learned quickly.
Cool, Mark. Thank you. Thanks very much. We'll come back to you again very shortly.
I do think what is really important, though, that said, Mark, is that actually these two gentlemen here gave us that insight as well, Jeremy and John, because I think as a lot of us UK guys, the same thing. We were looking at photographs, and obviously, like, you know, seeing the guys from LA later on. But actually, these two guys were the guys that sort of showed us. And I think when I interviewed Jules recently, he said, big shout out to Jules, who isn't here, unfortunately. But that actually Jeremy and John were the two of the skaters that actually enabled us to see sort of a little bit what it should be like, how the socks should sort of be rocked, and how the sort of gear. Because none of us had any of the gear. That was the thing. It's like none of us had gear. None of us had any gear. You know, if you had tube socks, you were a fucking boss. You know what I mean? We were all wearing like little like school socks and shit like that. So, and it was like Green Flash was like the shit. That was the shit back then before Vans. So you know, I think these two guys. Yes, absolutely. Of course, you know, when these guys came over. But I think before that, these two guys were our insight into like the...
Okay, so that's an interesting point, because obviously they are, I think you're absolutely right, John and Jeremy, kind of style icons, if that's not too embarrassing a term. But I think for a lot of guys in this room, we were kind of looking that way for the cues. But were you kind of consciously aware of any kind of self-image? You're being photographed all the time, you're pushing your skateboarding. Was it just a very natural thing, or were you thinking, hey, I'm going to put this hat on today and kind of do that thing that's going to, you know, I'm going to...
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't think I was. I mean, I was just so excited as it, you know, to come here, and then, you know, I hadn't really skated that much really myself either. You know, I'd ridden some banks and stuff on like a...
That's when I first met you.
You know, extruded fiberglass board, you know, like, but to come here and have it like grow and have all these opportunities to skate with people and skate on banks and then skate city, and then it was just this constant, it was all happening really fast. It was just constantly so excited to get there the next day and you know, get better, and yeah, I think I was just excited to be able to do it, to be enabled to do it, and have all the support from all these people.
But there was a moment when you all got incredibly good at one point.
A situation where I suddenly met like 50 people, and all of them were pretty cool. You know, like, you know, and all of them were very encouraging to each other, and, you know, hooting at them when they, you know, make something, and you, after you go to the park for, you know, a not long enough time, you see people who are working on things, and when you see them make it, you're like, yeah, man, you know, all right, you know.
Yes.
So,
For real, baby.
I mean, that having like attention for what paid to what you're doing, there's definitely a charge in it, for sure. I mean, there's no question about that, and that would help too, because there was, you know, I mean, like skateboarding is 90% spectating anyway.
Yeah.
At least 90%, you know. So that's another thing. It's like you always had people like cheering you on and watching and inspiring you, you know. So.
But what would that have been like to have the front cover of the only or the main British magazine, and there you are, you're on the front cover of it, and you're like, I don't know, you're 15 years old. That's kind of a big deal in my book, but
It was
kind
of a big deal, but I mean,
to
the
the
time
30 people that you were skating with.
Exactly.
That's the thing, is it didn't
Exactly.
mean anything. It wasn't like being on the
It was
cover
like-
of Vogue or being the cover of
He's
the
like,
Times.
fuck you, John. Why is John on the cover?
Wait. Truthfully, we did not have thrasher cover syndrome. There's no way we had thrasher cover syndrome over here. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like, oh, I got a thrasher cover. No. Let me speak honestly. Tim Layton, boys. Thank you, Tim. And thank you for the photography. I'm going to say something very directly about the media and the relationship of the media with Los Angeles, or the Dana Point media, as we could have James Cassimus speak to, or Steve Van Dorn or Tony Alba. But the skateboarding magazine, Skateboarder magazine came out of Surfer, right? Dana Point, California. That's that same area where I was basically around and from. So I can speak kind of to this. When I came to London, I met John at the school I go to, the high school, right? And they had banks in the ball court. We'd skate the ASL banks in St. John's Wood. And they were super steep, right? In Northwest London, where we went to high school. And after that, we formed a partnership and a friendship. And that, luckily, that friendship and partnership was only documented, and I'm back to the gratitude to Tim Leighton Boyce, by the situation of Tim being a photographer. Not some guy who's like, oh, I'll get your footy for you. This is a photographer that we really respected who would be at places like Mad Dog Bowl and show up on his own volition, paying for his own film, doing everything from his perspective for us without ever us asking him to. So, I mean, the difference between the media in those days, as I'm pointing out, is you either had London with a kind relationship to photographers who could take brilliant photographs, and you were lucky to have that relationship, or you might be in California and you have some guys who knew how to make money off of your skills and talents and take some photos of you and put you in every ad. Different thing from London. You get it, guys? Very different. With a Tim Leighton Boyce and what became Read and Destroy and what became the British, you know, it's like Donald Saatchi and why he ended up with an art museum. May I say that? He was an advertising mogul. He took all that money and started buying art. I started making art for a little bit in New York, and I made a piece for Robert Longo, and I ended up being a life cast bust in St. John's Wood 20 years later in a Robert Longo art piece that Saatchi bought. That's a strange thing. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about how advertising and money works. So if you work in skateboarding, it's an art. It started out in art, a beautiful flow motion art related to Duke Hanamoko, right? It has breath and mana and power and a depth to it that goes back into the Pacific Ocean, right? Deep. Like Kiwis, spirals on their arms, like Hawaiians saying no to Captain Cook and killing him on a beach, right? Deep. Skateboarding has a lineage that's deep.
Jeremy,
Tim is what I'm saying to you. We had a different media relationship. London's media relationship and our skateboarders, we'd have these great nights after his photos, his slides. He'd show a slideshow at his house with Brad Vines, and we'd gather with Thea Cuts and all these great people, Shane Cuts, and we'd have jingles. We'd have the union that we had in LSD was beautiful. The diversity and the love of it was just kind of hard to utter, right, Johnny?
Yeah, that's a good one, Jeremy, because Tim's talked to me about this dialogue that you guys had. The slideshows was an important thing. He was learning from you guys because you were saying, well, that's a sick photo, and so he was like, okay, I need to do this, and so the dialogue that exists between skateboarding and photography was being embedded right there, right then. Yeah, so that's
the style thing is like you can't. The media thing is the topic. I didn't want to finish that, but I wanted to comment also on the Kadir style, and the John style, and the Adam Peacock style, and the Ben Liddell style, and the Surf style, and like I said, Simon Napper style. And this guy right here. Later on, we have the very fast development of skateboarding into very hard skateboarding, and super difficult stuff. He invented the fakial in Mark Sinclair, right? Shogo can tell you that. A lot of people, he's not some other guy like Kevin Staub. This is Mark Sinclair. And he came back from Fort Lauderdale where he skated at Cadillac Concourse with Mike Fulmer and Alan Gelfand. And he's like, I'm doing ollie pops. So he and I learned ollies at the same time, like a week after Gelfand and Fulmer. So we're not that far behind is my point. And we worked hard to keep up with it. Just like if you were Department of Defense and you were training in jiu-jitsu, you might be as good as guys who were in some sidewalk that's selling their shit, profiting off them shit. If you're DOD, you might be a badass as well. So I'm just saying.
So can you talk a little bit about the whole LSD thing, and then down in Brighton they had the Pig City thing. So how did that LSD thing kind of evolve? And yeah.
Talk about the LSD thing, Simon.
Yeah. Oh, is it a Simon? Okay.
That was
all right.
Idea. And it wasn't ever meant as aggressive or claiming.
Oh,
it's
absolutely not. It kind of took on a life of its own. I remember we were on the South Bank, and I think I saw it just on the tube. I saw LSD sprayed somewhere, and we were all sitting around, and I think I threw the idea out there as LSD, you know, acid, London skate dominate, and it kind of went on, and people sort of went with it, and I'm amazed that people are still talking and using it.
The 60s open for the 70s.
As like more of a comment on the skate scene than like we are dominant. It was more like this is the best. Like this is the best place for skating kind of thing. Like this is our place and we love it.
Yeah, but we love the whole community. Yeah. Brighton, Bristol, You know, I don't think
Yeah,
we ever
there
put
was
ourselves...
There was never really any territoriality.
No, it wasn't. It might have sounded big-headed, but I don't think we really meant it that way.
And actually, it's pretty incredible. I was just looking at my shoes and looking at the insole, and I was just thinking, wow, it's just amazing. Like 45 years later, I'm seeing this shit in like a in a Vans shoe, in like the shoes that I couldn't. My first pair of Vans was second-hand. They had holes in them when I got one. I was like, man, I got a pair of Vans. Like, you know what I mean? It was just like, just before I stopped skating, it was like right at the end, you know what I mean? But it's amazing.
Do you remember those early Vans, Alex? You and I got a pair from Florence at Skate 2. And she shipped some in for all of us logos. And there was boxes of them around at her place. And you and I had the same size feet, we did then. And we had a blue and red pair and a blue and yellow pair. And we swapped one each, so we both had to. And there's photos up there coming up tonight with you with a blue and yellow and a red and blue. And me too. I had the same in opposite, obviously. Sorry, sidetrack.
I tried to just get LSD, but legal wouldn't let me. He's trying, I know, and I kept trying to come back.
It's amazing to see.
We had to put the London skate dominate.
As well as the crews, there were the companies. Obviously, there was Benji, Connoisseur, there's LAN. Like, how much input did you, as teenagers, have into what these manufacturers were doing and how they were marketing these products that have got your pictures, your names adjacent to them?
Quite a lot, particularly with deck and board design, because it was evolving almost like weekly, it seemed. There's a new, different kicktail of wider boards, but they were so... Yeah, but it seemed every week, A, they would break, and there was like a write-off, and B, somebody had an idea for a wider or a different or longer, and so the evolution was really fast. And it was able to be maybe because there were smaller or local manufacturers, I don't know. But probably the same evolution was happening to the States, and those boards were coming over as well for us. Trucks and wheels, less so.
We can't speak for Benji Board.
I was just going to say. But the Benji wheel, the Benji Boots wheel, somebody should talk about that because that was phenomenal. That was a fantastic step forward. The Boots wheel.
John, you say you can't remember really about the boards and stuff. It was
Really,
like
I remember actually designing the deck. Yeah, I remember designing the deck, but I don't remember like it being much of an issue, like how our images were being used, or if they even were, or anything like that. It didn't. There wasn't much at stake at the time, you know. I mean, it was like, very, very seldom we got paid like a per diem kind of thing for doing like tours, but it was really minimal. It wasn't really it wasn't even worth thinking about almost in a lot of ways, and it didn't seem like there was a lot at stake. Like you had to pay attention in case you were taken advantage of, because there was nothing to. Seemed as if there was nothing for them to be taking advantage of, you know.
But what happened when the board suddenly went wide? So I remember, and I'm in Oxford, and I'm just, skating with Sean and people, and occasionally coming up to London, mostly reading the mags, and suddenly the board's over 12 months. Tony comes over with his 10-inch board, and we go, what the hell is that? Yeah. But Mark, it was you had the widest Benji board deck. Did you design that? I mean,
did, yeah, because I figured
how did that come about?
Well, I figured you want to try and get most of your foot on the board so you can control it better. That was my thinking. And for bank riding and vert, pools and stuff, because that's when it progressed into that. And yes, my board was rather wide, I admit that. But,
and heavy.
But heavy. It was a pig, man. Yeah, for sure.
I rode his board.
That's
all
right.
those skateboarder shots,
Yeah.
James got all those shots you guys saw on the show last night. All those on Sinclair's board.
But
board, very well
just to go back about skateboarding in the early days, I remember as a kid, like once we progressed from the flat, and we had the influence from the Americans, like from the surfing scene, and we had our own little style gurus, like yes, that's right, the man here, but. It was the men there. Yeah, there was loads of people that had style, just natural style. But it's once we progressed onto banks, and to me that was the feeling of surfing a wave. So South Bank, to me, I saw South Bank as waves, and then you could just express yourself. You can get down low, you could pump it, you'd learn all this stuff. So we started looking around, and London was an amazing place. You had all these natural banks everywhere. Once I was on the bus going to Wandsworth roundabout, and there was these huge big banks. And I thought, oh my Lord. So obviously the next day I bunked off school, and we went down to try and ride it.
No one talks about Wandsworth.
That's right.
No one mentions it.
But
What's the original source?
That's
Like
right,
South
man.
Bank? Before
yeah,
South
yeah,
Bank?
yeah. But the cement was a bit like gnarly, wasn't it? It was like that kind of thing going on.
This morning, Sabowski and I were talking about saying you needed red or blue Crips, 70s.
That's right.
To ride Wandsworth.
Yeah, yeah.
And just going back to like that whole thing about equipment. I mean, you know, at first the good thing about the wider boards was wider trucks, but because we were grinding like with half tracks before that, which is kind of mad to think. You know, it's just about the width of the coping. But I'd also like to raise a point that the sort of access to gear between Benji and Logos was a very different situation. Benji had like loads of gear. Logos, we were like the punk rock. It was like the punk rock team.
It was, in a way, it was sad because Gullwing was distributed by Benji. So all of a sudden, if you notice, I'm riding Gullwing. I didn't like them, but we're like, here, like, ride these. You know, we had to ride Gullwings. No offense to Gullwing. You would choose Indies when they came.
And the
up.
other thing, I guess, is you didn't buy a skateboard. You got a pair of trucks, and then you would make a skateboard and then swap some wheels or something. So you didn't. I don't know. I ever bought a skateboard like full, like decks, like trucks, wheels. It just didn't happen. There was just like no.
There's a short story there, if you don't mind, about deck. I never, like you, Alex, and like loads of us, I'm sure, made decks from scratch. Never actually bought a deck. Then worked at Skate City. Boards around, never had to buy a board. Worked at magazines, free boards were coming in to be looked at. Oh, I'll ride that. Eventually ended up down the West Country with a signature model, never paid for a board there. Many years later, I had a message on Facebook, hey Ben, there's one of your old boards on eBay. It might have been Sean. Yeah, it's the sort of thing Sean would do. Yeah, and then we did that. And so I actually put a bid and won it. The beautiful irony is that's the only deck I ever paid for. and when it came in the post, someone who sold it wrote on it, it's like it's coming home. And Trawler, where's Trawler? He's here. He messaged me to said that was a bit of your J.R. Thompson moment, J.R. Hartley moment. Sorry, J.R. Hartley moment, which is a good line.
So, Mark, you mentioned the importance of South Bank to your kind of progression in skateboarding. Same for a lot of guys, I guess. But Kadir, there's a great story about your kind of happening upon it, right?
Well, I think, you know, it's a bit of a misnomer that, because I think everybody discovered South Bank in their own way. But there was this moment where I was skating on Broadwalk at Kensington Gardens, and with Max, I think it was, and I can't remember. Anyway. It was Max. And there was an American guy who had a Porsche. And we said, you know, he said, is there anywhere else we can skate? He said, well, we've heard of these, you know, there's this place which might be quite good, you know. So we all bundled into the Porsche. And you could park there, you could drive around. And we got to South Bank and thought, wow, this is amazing. This is the place to be. And I think gradually, because the Broadwalk, which was just a hill basically, had been sort of overtaken by the popularity of skateboarding, and you couldn't skate there. It was so busy. And then in the end, the council gritted it and stopped us riding it. So everybody just gravitated to South Bank because this was the place to be. It was much better. We'd all had other, you know, experiences with banks, i.e. Wandsworth, which was horrible. And then there was Kensington Town Hall, which was equally as bad because that was just made of bricks. So it had a really hard transition. So suddenly we all end up at South Bank, and that's, you know, where I met Jeremy, where I met John. I remember the first time I saw Jeremy skate, and you know, a revelation, as with Adam Peacock as well. Yeah, Adam was amazing. He was going on Z-Flex, and we thought, what is this?
Yeah.
He was, you know, amazingly talented, and Casper, his brother, were very good. Yeah. It was fantastic. So yeah, that's my South Bank story, really. You know, but you couldn't. You know, it was a wasteland. There was nothing around it. You couldn't even buy a Coke, or coffee, or anything. They wouldn't let you into the cafe at the Raw Festival Hall. We were the kind of pariahs of this place. Tramps, yes.
We had to clean the pit out.
Yeah, weatherproof. Yeah, Max is right. The only place in London you could skateboard You couldn't skate anywhere else.
Yeah, we used to have to chase out all the bums in order to skate there. And they would take their blanket and their bottle and just kind of crawl away like all. I remember when I went there, it was all homeless people and shit. There was nobody skating. It was all transients. And I had to tell them to get the fuck out of the way so I could skate.
We didn't tell them to get the fuck out of the way.
They left. They split.
But it was an environmental thing, you know, as you said. It was the only place you could skate when it was wet. And the majority of the time was wet. And we wore sweaters.
A funny story about South Bank, because I started skating with my brother Johnny, who's actually the one who really kind of... We had one skateboard that I got from an American friend of mine, a clay wheel, open face bearings, wheels would fall off. You'd be running around picking up the bearings, like putting them in one side, turn them over, put them in the other side. And I remember going to Primrose Hill, and I met Richard and John, Richard Hesloff and John Scher. And John had he had a GNS Fiberflex with Bennett Pro ads, Road Rider 6s, a Banzai with Bennett Pros and Road Rider 4s. And I tell my kids there's nothing that they could see now that would be as otherworldly as me seeing those skateboards. And it was like the urethane, like wheels, grip tape, and they were like, oh, you should go to this place, South Bank. And I often think, like, that just changed our lives. And there would be no other way we would have been able to find out about South Bank unless another skateboarder told you. And there was like, 100 skateboarders in London or something like that at that time. So it was just like that really random thing of like turning up on Primrose Hill, which is where we used to skate. And then these guys going, oh, you should go to this place. And then from that point on, I think the next 2.5 years, I spent every Saturday and Sunday and every day, every evening and every day that I could bunk off school was spent there and then at Skate City. So
But would you try and keep it a secret, or were you like rushing around telling everybody, hey, get down there?
It was only relevant to the other skateboarders. And so either if you skateboarded, you would go there, or you wouldn't be like not telling somebody about South Bank if they skateboarded. But it was like, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of people doing it. So it was a sort of, and actually I think this is one of the really things I'd like to just go back, sorry to just talk a bit, but something Mark said right at the beginning about diversity. It was one of the first scenes where you had kids from Stockwell, Kensington, Camden, Bristol, like all races, some of the posh, but actually all the West London boys were the guys that had all the gear and the style actually, so that was quite an important bit, but actually it was the first sort of multicultural scene of that, and it wasn't like even, I guess, with Mods and Teds, you know, probably those things were, you know, culturally from the same thing, but this was like completely diverse and racially, sort of like economically, socially, everything. So I think that it was a really like important thing, you know, for that, because it was just kids, you just meet people from all over the place, and it just didn't matter where anyone came from.
And skating's still like that. I really feel strongly, and I'm sure you'll think skating's really like that. This sort of strong, open approach to individuals. Doesn't matter, just skate.
I think the die was cast early on, right? That, you know, what happened here amongst you people, it did set the tone for the way it's gone on, I feel.
We used to go do away days to Brighton, because we heard there were other skateboarders there.
Yeah.
And because we didn't know any other skateboarders. You know, there's a few little pockets of skateboarding in London. So we'd get on the train, and there was a completely different style of skateboarding there. It was very different. It was very surf-based. I remember Jock Patterson riding these really crazy little boards. They were only about sort of that long, tiny little boards with clay wheels, and they just sort of slide around the
That's why Mark
ramps.
Baker called him the rugby team.
Yeah.
Did you notice? Mark said the rugby team.
But it was it was a cool scene, and there was one skateboard shop there as well. Yeah, they were very cool and welcoming.
Yeah, the Brighton skaters.
I just want to say, I remember when you guys all came down to skate the farm, and I just always loved your style. Always. Your style, man, was special. But that's not detracting from the other guys. I remember when Tim and I first went to Skate City and we watched Jeremy and John skate, we looked at each other and went, fuck. This is another level. And there was always a lot of respect and love there, you know that.
No, it was. It was great. So it was very much reciprocated between all the skaters in England. You know, I think if they could skate, you'd say, yeah, thumbs up to all of them. But you didn't there was no sort of compartmentalizing. You know, once you're in the place and skating, it was all about that, really. You know. But Mark was the most interesting guy because he stopped skating. He gave it up, and then because he wasn't enjoying it, and then started again. He got into sort of pulling wheelies on bicycles. Do you remember, Mark? Yeah.
I always remember you just turning up one day on a pair of roller skates and skating back and skating backwards on the banks, and I was just like, "What the fuck is going on? Like, what is this?" Like, there were nobody was roller skating then, but it wasn't just like roller skate. It was just like skateboarding on roller skates, like backwards, like going like. I was just like, "Oh man, forget. I give up."
Terrorizing the pushing Mongo.
Hey, he can do whatever he likes. That fake Yoli photo was amazing.
But I'm gonna call Mad Mark in from Bali again. Mark, can you hear us okay? Sorry, we had a bit of technical problem. We lost you for a bit there. Look, I don't know if you heard all that. Kadir was just saying what an amazing style all the Brighton surfers had. And Jock came in and gave a bit of insight into the Brighton crew as well. We've got one really specific question for you. It's really detailed. Really. What the hell was going on with that Megatron truck of yours? Where did that come from? Because we think that's the first ever pro signature skateboard truck. How did that? Can you remember?
I agree with you. I think we were just trying to get paid. Yeah, no, that came out on. I can't even think where that came out of. But you know, Phil, my manager, Lobato, bless him, you know, was always cooking up schemes. And I get, look, you know, at some point we were like, well, are we gonna, you know, can we monetize this and can we like feed ourselves from this incredible sport and thing that we're doing? And you know, I mean, I think all of us have, you know, the Benji boys had their deals with Ben Howard, you know, safety gear. God forbid that company Raz, you know, skate gear. And then out of the blue, someone said, well, you know, do you want to put your signature on a truck? And I was trying to get a board out with Phil, you know, the Baker Air Breaker, and try and get some money out of that. And it wasn't about getting rich. It was about sustaining a lifestyle and skating. And we were on tours. So when it comes to the trucks, honestly, I don't know where it came from, but I do know that I went on eBay not long ago and they're fetching a fortune. You know, I never kept anything. It all got robbed out of my garage. I don't know. I don't know where it came from, but I think it was the only signature truck. Everyone had a board and a T-shirt and a pair of shoes and all the rest of it. But, you know, I got a truck.
and it was a wide truck as well. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Thanks. Okay, we're gonna come to the end of this session now. We're just gonna take two questions from the audience. If anyone wants to ask everyone a panel. Sean.
Okay, first off, legend. Now you guys are going to be skating. A lot of people will be skating. I'm getting emotional because I'm seeing my childhood here. Thank you very much for what you've done for skateboarding. Yeah, thank you for everything. Sorry. Don't give me a microphone, I won't stop. Now, I'll tell you what, I had your pictures on my wall. I looked up to you guys. Like I say, I'm getting emotional because this is amazing to see everyone here. So much love for skateboarding. And without you guys, I don't think I'd have had a professional career in skateboarding. And without you guys, I wouldn't have had the life I've got. And likewise, everyone else, we've had an amazing life. Because the impact that you guys and girls made on us has made us what we are today. So thank you very much. Not a question, but thank you very, very, very much.
Okay, it's not a question from Sean, but pretty good. Who else wants to ask a question? Pat.
Well, thanks, Ian. So you've mentioned the skate parks, and you kind of trashed them, said that the UK had bad skate parks, but we had probably the biggest concentration of skate parks in the world outside of California, do you reckon, in the late 70s? So do you think that we've still got quite a lot left here at the moment, and do you think that they're a resource that we need to protect for the future? Harrow, Rom.
May I speak to that?
Stevenage.
I worked for Vans and helped build Milpitas Skate Park. I worked with Rick Karji as a mason contractor in contemporary times to help the skate parks that Steve has helped build for California. And my experiences, I was lucky enough in 1979-80 with John Soboski to help design Guildford Skate Park, and we were paid £500 to build the first half pipe with flat. To build your first concrete half pipe a long ways down, 8 to 12 foot, gradient, slalom in the middle. John's like, we'll do a concrete with flat, half pipe, and then we can let the slalom guys can use it when we're not using it to go down the middle of it. So anyways, we were lucky enough to design skates. We built reservoirs. John and I got paid to build a playland for some rich guys, right? They had horse money, whatever. The bottom line, we were lucky, right? So you don't always get luck with the skateboard park situation. Sorry to look around and get back to your question. We had skate parks that were magical, and sometimes, like Skate Circus was very bizarre. A converted, London had this skateboard park that was a converted theater. It was incredible, right? It was very, very different. It had a half pipe in the back that only Jingles could ride, really. You get to the top of it, it was like maybe 6 feet of vert.
They need to start doing what they did to Stockwell. Just go to the old parks and fucking resurface them.
Right. And as you said, South Bank did have that. When we first went to South Bank, Jules and I and John and met together and all circumambulated. It did have an aspect of being, back of the pit was defecate and piss and that, but it wasn't just like you had to kind of move bums. They would get up and move if you just smiled at them, depending on your energy. But if there were 6 of you and you were smiling, they knew for sure to get up. You didn't have to tell them aggressively. So parts of London is like, it depends if you moved with a certain energy. If you move with the right energy, people will just move out of your way, right? Such as Alex and his Wing Chun or martial arts or Kung Fu. Or other skateboarders we know.
Jeremy, Mark, Sheena, John, Alex, Kadir, Simon, Ben.
We're going to talk now about the American influence, which of course is massive, if not total, on skateboarding, but how it affected the scene here at the time when all these people were leading the way. And obviously a big thing for getting this whole project going was the famous Skateboarder magazine article in '79, which really put our guys, the British guys, up there on a pedestal, on the map. It was really happening at that point. And we have James Cassimus here in the room, who took... And I don't suppose anyone needs to... Nobody... Obviously, James's work speaks for itself. It's an incredibly influential period in photography, and he was a massive part of it. Mark and Jeremy were the people in that article, and I think it set a very high bar, right, for everybody that was interested and into the scene. That it was an important moment. Before that, Tony had come the year before, 1978, and he toured around with Mark, and so we're going to talk about how those things had a big impact. And I'd like to start with Jeremy, about how that felt maybe to do that shoot. What was that like to be... James said he was only here for 2 hours. And speak into the mic, because it's a struggle hearing.
Sure. I have wonderful memories of Brian Galogli and James Cassimus coming over to London. And through Benji, John Povey and Ben Howard, and after a wonderful Indian meal off the King's Road, diplomacy, get the gut happy. And it was a nice experience. And then we went... through Ben and John Povey, we were able to arrange sessions at Thunder. So that's why. Is that Bart Baker making fun of me? Yeah. I thought I'd move to Bali and get new teeth. Or just become a stand-up salty bastard. No, I love you, Baker. And I know you tried to hump Helen in Thea Cut's mom's bathroom. Anyways, back to what I was saying. When he came, we weren't rock stars, right? Benji was a fun unit, you know, and we had Sebastian and I were amazed that we were getting our own models. And when the whole LSD thing was happening, we just knew that London it's not domination, it's origination. London skate originate, initiate. London skate like creative, you know, lovely, you know. It's not dominate, but then unfortunately it happened to be dominate after we toured. You know, I guess we were good. So it wasn't really supposed to be LSD. Back to the present, back to what I was trying to say and to track. These guys, when they showed, we weren't dominators. And we were just hoping to get a photo for the mag. It was Skateboarder Mag. And Sinclair, man, his style is so buttery that if you didn't get it was like he didn't really do anything for you. He just fucking killed it. And if you didn't get the photo, you missed it. And so Cassimus was one of those guys who definitely could catch the moment. So they're lucky they caught us. We were lucky they caught us, but they sent us to King James. Maybe you guys don't know, but this is King James Cassimus. He's a great photographer, man. So that's my big up.
James, do you want to tell us a little bit about that experience and what it was like to come?
He also stayed with me.
And we had Indian food together too. That was the highlight. In '79, me and Brian Galogly came over on a whirlwind Europe tour. We went to Sweden first, and then on to Switzerland, Paris, and then our last stop was here. It was kind of a wash the whole trip. We discovered Pear Viking in Sweden, which was insane skater, but that was, you know, the highlight of Sweden. Paris, we shot a little bit with Alex Alexis, and then we really didn't know what to expect, and then we got here, it was raining, and so then luckily we came across two great skaters next to me and made the whole trip. It's, you know, I just push the button and focus. So, well, well, anyway. So,
who is Benito Schwartz? Is that just a pen name?
Galogly's big name.
Benito Schwartz is Brian Galogly's pen name. So,
like Stesic was John
yeah,
Smythe.
yeah, Stesic had a few too.
No, Stesic had a few, dude.
Yeah.
It wasn't just
His
Smythe.
most famous one was Carlos Zizan.
Carlos
Zizan.
Which is Nazi spelled backwards.
Yeah.
He wrote this stuff about Mickey Dora under Carlos Zizan, which basically because Dora always had swastikas on his boards. But they had nothing to do with German swastikas at all. It was totally about the mentality that surfers had, that we were basically surf Nazis. We had nothing to do with anti-Semitism, nothing to do with hating people that were brown or black. As a matter of fact, Dora was very brown. He was very olive-skinned fucking dude, you know. He was not a white guy. So, you know, people need to understand some of the shit that comes from surf culture. The Dogtown boards that had swastikas on them, like the one that people have tried to talk shit about me riding with the hand drawn by Wes Humston because I had a swastika on them. Fuck all those people that are talking that shit because they know nothing about what they're talking about. We used it purely as a graphic and as artwork. It had nothing to do with anything racial. There's no way in the skateboarding world that there can be any of that animosity because of the fact that we are so multicultural. We're all about family when it comes to skateboarding, and it doesn't matter what race, creed, color, religion, or what is going on with you. If you skate, you're part of the family.
Yeah, so anyway, back at Rolling Thunder, I was there for a couple hours and created all those, yeah. So we created all those images in a couple hours at Rolling Thunder, and we had no idea we were going to be that influential on UK skating. You know, it just blew my mind, you know, coming here and seeing all you guys and going, wow. It took 45 years to figure out that we were this influential of the skate industry over here, and I wish we would have came back again.
What did you expect? Did you have an expectation? Did you know that there was a good scene here? Was it purely kind of experimental? Travel around and see what you're going to find?
The whole trip, we didn't have any expectations. We didn't know what we were going to find or.
I would think we definitely were surprised. The thunder and the post bowl and the energy that he hit that night, I could see he was kind of like, his mouth was open. He's like, what the fuck? First of all, the bowl had a red support post in it, and he was looking at it going, right, you're going to ride this one? Why not the half pipe or the peanut in the back? And I don't know if you guys are familiar or have ever skated Rolling Thunder, but there was a lot of things to ride there. A lot of different things to ride. So he was like, why'd you pick? I remember him looking at it, like, why would you pick this challenging thing with an obstacle that can knock you cold out, the post? Because we liked it. And it actually had horrible kinks on the little sidewall and stuff. And the post bowl was actually only a couple walls were good, and they were low and small. And so Sinclair wasted his time rarely in it. But he was in a half-pipe killing. So I just want to point out, Rolling Thunder was a proving ground, but it also wasn't clean or perfect or even, but it was variated. So Shane Rouse was in one corner doing freestyle, and then there was all different types of skaters doing different things in there. Mark, did you work there?
No.
After you came back from California?
No, I didn't. Is this live? Yeah, when I came back from the USA, the skate park closed down, so that was a bit sad. But yeah, the Rolling Thunder, man, I mean, potentially now you look at it, it was a death trap for Kings.
Super liability
But
skate.
in those days, we didn't care. We used it and we loved it.
Yeah.
And it was huge, it was big, it was amazing, it was all indoors. Dark,
Dark.
seedy.
It's like an
rooms
old
at the
train.
back. We also hang out and do naughty little things with herbal cigarettes.
We had
oh my lord. That's
it
right,
was
man.
definitely not marina. It wasn't like there was pinball machines and sodas. It was like there was corners where these spliffs and brawls.
The keyhole at Marina that was barely skatable.
I loved it.
Was the only one that could do backside airs out of, which
I loved
Blessing
upper keyhole.
lost him last week, which is-
Plumer, you seen him? He's okay? Or he passed? When I first went out with John Soboski, we stayed with Jimmy Plumer and Jerry Valdez.
Yeah, he just
And they
passed.
toured us around.
He
That's
just
me.
passed about a week ago.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
James, you obviously came to London, but you'd been in, and you said you went and saw Per Viking in Sweden, and you went to France, and you went to Switzerland.
Yeah, the first stop was
What
in Sweden.
What were those other places like, and how did they compare?
The skate park here was, like I said, big, dark. It was really hard to photograph because back then it was Kodachrome 64 and one flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't. I mean, I didn't know what I actually shot till I got home a week later. After developing all the stuff back in the
Were you
States.
worried? Were you worried there wouldn't be anything from that?
No, you're always pleasantly surprised. It's like Christmas. You open up the slide box and you start looking and you're going, and then you go, whoa, there's a good one. Well, there's another one.
6 oops, and then there's one.
Yeah. So, but it always, it was all like Christmas every time you open up a slide box.
Mark and Jeremy, presumably the first time you saw those pics is when they were in the mag? No. Did you see them in advance at all?
I'm getting a really good story now. Mike, you know about Glenn Friedman? Yes. Photographer, right? Now, Fuck You Heroes, etc. So I went regularly, like John, out to skating Marina in the summers. I would skate Marina del Rey. And to cut the story very short, Glenn Friedman was there taking photos of myself and Jay Smith skating doubles in the top keyhole. And Glenn said, hey, they're putting an interview out of you, Henderson. And I said, what? He goes, the mag is putting an interview out of you and Sinclair. And I was like, what? They're going to do an interview from that shit? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I was worried, right? And then it ended up being actually quite lucky because Friedman said, let's go borrow my mom's car. I was 15 with a driver's permit. We borrowed his mom's car in Malibu and drove with Jay and Glenn down to the magazine. And Sunday afternoon, he opened up, he had a key to it. And we went in, and there was James's desk with some slides on it. And Glenn goes, there they are. There's the slides and the photos for your interview. And I went through them, and I stole a half dozen of the best ones.
And this is the first time I heard about it after 45 years.
I'm giving them back to him. I got the prints, but I'm giving him back the slides.
Yeah, so I'm going to finally get my slides back.
It's going to be full circle.
So 40-year amends.
Yeah. And I'm not blaming it on Glenn Friedman because he's like, hey, I work at the mag, I can facilitate this.
Never
I'm
too
not
late,
saying
Jeremy.
that.
It's never too late.
Never too late. No, the full circle has happened.
So
Almost.
Mark, can you talk a little bit
a
about?
great slide of Jules, which I gave to Jules. I stole Jules' slide and gave it to him about foot plants. Backside foot plants. Amazing.
So funny story on that, because we were.
That's in the mag anyways.
When Steve and I were lucky enough to link up with James and abruptly show up on his doorstep. Hi, we're here. Can we look at all your slides? We were looking for that Jules photo, and we could not find it.
Give the slide to Jules so you can't get one back.
It's an incredible shot. It's in the gallery, but I think Dan had to spend a lot of time touching up the image that he was able to get offline. But the circle is complete now.
It's never too late.
I was just wondering, James, like if that whole trip and like all the film you shot and stuff, if that represented like an investment on your part, like was you sort of taking a financial risk to get some documentation of something that you weren't even necessarily sure would provide that, or?
No, that was all paid for by the Skateboarder
Oh, yeah?
magazine. So I was a staff photographer, photo editor there. So it was all paid for ahead of time. I just wish we could have took, more trips over here. That's the only my regret.
Yeah. Cool.
Because, you guys skated pretty insane.
These guys.
Did that, Mark, did that have any significance for you to when that interview came out? Other people have said that they always thought you were a very humble guy, not seeking any kind of particular attention, but those very potent images, how do they feel to you?
The answer is no, really. I mean, it's significant in the fact that, wow, we actually got an American skateboard magazine. That was a big deal. I remember that thing going on, but, it was just... For us, we just carried on skating, and then, this lovely chap came over, took the pictures, and we did our session in Rolling Thunder. But that's the way I remember it. My memory's a bit fuzzy, but it was, it was just feeling like, I can't believe it. We're actually in the American skateboard magazine. It was, and with our names on the front cover. But, we just carried on skating. It was a big thing. A lot of people thought, well done.
But you were telling me earlier that I think maybe that year, 79, when Shogo came here, that he'd stayed at your...
That's right. So Shogo Kubo, Dogtown man, came to stay with me for a month in my family's house, Trellick Towers, and we skated together. And then he returned the favour. I went out to America with him, and that's where I met Marina Del Rey Skate Park and that pool, man. It was just amazing. It was like, geez, it was like heaven. I remember it as being really smooth and with a speaker built in, rock music going on, floodlight at night.
It had speakers in it.
Man.
It had speakers in it.
How were you able to finally get Shogo to move out and get rid of him?
Oh, wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, that's true, Tony. It was...
he had a girlfriend. He met a girl at Harrow.
I made him an English breakfast. I think that done it for him.
Come on, the reason he stayed for 3 months.
Big time, man. Yeah.
Let's be straight. He didn't stay here to skate. He stayed here because he had met Terry, right?
Terry...
He met a girl.
Oh, of course, Terry.
Come on, tell the truth. He met a lady. That's why he didn't stay to show off.
When he went to New Jersey, he did the same thing at Cherry Hill, dude.
Yeah.
He had the girl that worked at the park was his girlfriend. He ended up living at Cherry Hill for a month.
Busy being a lover.
Dirty man.
There's a little bit of a pattern.
Getting his oats.
He was doing it.
There's a little bit of a pattern in his behavior.
Yes.
There was. He's a predator.
That's why I asked Mark. How did you get rid of him? How'd you get him out of the house?
But,
I know Shogo pretty well.
But there was no one like Shogo, man. His hair, his dark black jet hair, and his style, he's aggressive, like Japanese samurai sword thing going on with his laybacks.
His son is carrying on. Shota is
Respect.
Oh, yeah.
Very similar, but he's a goofy foot. He's the opposite.
Oh, okay.
He's a goofy foot instead of a regular foot.
We should ask Mark, because Mark, I think, was the only one that toured around with Shogo when he was here. Is that right? I mean, he was in London, and then he hit all the other parks around the UK, but none of you guys, apart from Rolling Thunder, none of you guys toured with Shogo, I think. So I think it was Mark. So I think...
Did Baker go to Cologne with him? Did you go up to Cologne, Mark? Baker? Did you go to Cologne with Shogo?
Mark, can you hear? We're asking you, did you go to Cologne with Shogo?
There's footage of that, on Facebook. I posted it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And it's amazing.
All those videos, those incredible history videos, and I saw, Shogo and I were on tour. I think it was Romford, I can't remember if we went to Colne or not, to be honest. But I know that we skated Romford and there, yeah, there's some great footage there. But I can't remember if we went to Colne or not.
We skated it together. Yeah, how many long was Mark, you were there, you had a broken wrist.
I always had a
They're
broken
telling
wrist.
you you were there and you had a broken wrist.
Well, I always had a broken wrist. Those fucking wrists kept on breaking. But Shogo was amazing, and you know, his style and those laybacks he was doing were just outrageous. And yeah, those recent videos that we've been posting are probably some of the only videos. You know, I mean, no one had videos back then, but we got some good footage there. But R.I.P. Shogo, shout out.
Yes, his son's carrying it on. His son is a badass.
Yeah, you know, his son is active, and when
right?
Is that Tony? Is that Jay and Shogo's son?
I haven't seen Jay's son around except for maybe in social situations. I run into his ex, and we saw the family right at Jacksonville not too long ago. Had her there as a guest, but she had the little ones with her. I know that Shota, he gets around. He's a real skater. He's a hardcore skater. He has like some affiliation with some sponsors, and yeah, he's carrying on. He's got a really, really beautiful style.
Say his name so people will know in the future.
Shota Kubo.
Shota Kubo.
Yeah, he's the man. He's a boy man, but he's still a young dude. But he's definitely carrying on. The thing about Shogo was, I mean, he took the different moves that Jay and I and guys like that kind of innovated, and he took them to the extreme. Like his tail taps were way beyond what Jay and I would do. He would take it so edgy. His frontside airs, again, super extreme, just completely torqued and compressed to the extreme. And I think his style, even though Shogo was not much of a surfer really, he wasn't. I think he was really a novice surfer, but he had an extremely surfy style. And his inertia, the way that he would get from one point to the next with very little body movement, was aesthetically a really, really beautiful thing to watch. He was a beautiful skateboarder to watch.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
even felt graceful. Like
100%, because he toured around. There's guys here that saw Shogo, right? A lot of us saw him, and it was definitely special. Yeah.
And he was pretty quiet. He was didn't have many words very often. But when he did have a temper. He had if you crossed the line with him, you were gonna get fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, because he had a certain breaking point to where if you crossed the line with him, especially being kind of having from the Japanese culture, they get to a certain extent where at one point they're like Buddha, and the next moment they're like full-on samurai. They're gonna cut your fucking head off. So.
Yeah, it's over. So, Mark and Jeremy, that when he was there that summer, we have some shots that Tim took at the Rolling Thunder of Shogo there. Do you remember those sessions, or did you kind of cross paths and not?
I mostly remember Harrow sessions with Shogo.
Okay, Harrow,
more
yeah.
regular. And I didn't get to go to Colne. I was really bummed about that.
I was talking to Jeremy yesterday about Harrow, and I was just like, man, that place was not easy to skate. It was really difficult. And I was just like, Jeremy, did you ever skate there? He goes, what are you talking about? You never seen the photos and stuff? He got all like dead at me, and I looked at him like, sorry, dude.
I had 5 beers.
That half pipe, man, was crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a crazy half pipe.
There was no transition. It was like, boom.
And no lip, no coping, no nothing to hold you in. So
we call the deep side of it the Shadowlands.
Well, I think the hardest part about those half pipes back in the day was there was no flat bottom. There was no fucking time to think about what you're going to do. You had to instinctively just bam, bam from wall to wall. And if you didn't have good knees and good responses, you could not ride that shit. And there's no way you were going to do an air unless you really had a technique that was like spontaneously like lightning fast, So that, if you want to know the truth, I don't want to get too far ahead, but coming to England and riding those parks, I was like, this is rad. I was fired up and stoked because I was just like, Mark had probably skated a few things before me, but this was the first time for me at every place that I went to. And I was like, bring it. I was like, I don't care how rough it is, how big it is, I'm gonna go out and kill this shit. And like, you know, like Romford and all that, I was like 3 feet of vert, no, I was like, psh, whatever, dude. You know, I was like, do you know who the fuck I think I am? You know? So we'll break it down if we're gonna talk about ego. Edging got out. Alva Skates dominates. LSD, I wonder which came first. I mean, I definitely had a T-shirt and an ad out, I'm pretty sure, that said Alva Skates dominates. So when I heard the LSD story, I was like, wait a second,
Tony,
these guys are kind of forgetting a few little things, huh?
It would have been funny, Tony, if you did a sheet of blotter acid with little Alva imprints on each hit.
Personally, I tried to stay away from
Griffin's
LSD
gone.
because I saw some guys fry their brains big time on it. Yeah. It was that and Jimson weed and angel dust. We tried to stay away from that shit. We gave it to Glenn Friedman because we wanted to see if we could really just permanently.
Yes.
We wanted to permadose his ass because he was he was the rich little Jewish kid, you know, from Brentwood. We were like, how much can we fuck with this guy to where maybe we'll permanently damage him? You know,
that would have been a great thing.
That was about as anti-Semitic as we got. You know, we're gonna try and permadose this kid.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So
I'm with you on that because I was friends with him. He picked me up at the airport from his prelude and he talked shit about everything. I was like, I just wanted to go skateboard. You know, he's a great gossiper.
About as spiritual as I like to get is back in the day. I've been clean and sober for 17 years, so it's. That shit quit working for me, but you know what? The most spiritual mixture I ever encountered was like really good tequila and mushrooms. That's spiritual, bro.
Hey, Tony.
Grounded, for real.
Tony, quick question. Tony, losing my voice. Before you came to the UK, were you aware of any of these guys? And then when you were here, do you remember impressions that any of the UK skateboarders
I
made
think
on
I
you?
had seen some photos of Sobolski and I had heard of Simon. But other than that, I'd never heard of Mark Baker, if you want to know the truth. And when I came here and met him, and I found out what a fucking maniac he was, I was like, this guy's perfect for the tour. And then the thing that really kind of freaked me out and scared me was his brother. His brother was a full-on hooligan and a pub monster and would come out and fight the cops in the street. And I used to see his brother every once in a while, and every time I saw him, he had a new scar on his face or whatever, you know. And he goes, and then Mark goes, "Here's my trick that I learned from my brother. You want to check it out?" And he wasn't a skater, so I go, "Yeah, what's your trick, dude?" And he took a safety pin and he just shoved it right through his fucking face, and clipped it shut and goes, "How's that?" And I was like, "Pretty fucking punk rock, bro."
So Tony, what's that? There's that wonderful photo of Wins, and I think like it's you and Mark, and I think maybe you're in a bathroom at a nightclub somewhere, and you're both with crazy makeup and wacky hair.
Oh no, that was in L.A. That was in
that was
Venice. He came over to visit me, and we went to a Halloween party, and we were like, and I hadn't cut my hair yet, but I thought punk rock was pretty original and edgy, and you know, when I came here, punk rock was just starting out in England, and I was a full hippie surfer, but you know what? My attitude was just as punk, if not, than the guys that were walking around London all dressed up like a bunch of, you know, freaky dudes. But, I mean, like I said, when I went to South Bank, I was like Sid Vicious times 10. I was like, get the fuck out of the way. I'm here to skate. You know, fuck you. You know, it just goes right back to that attitude, you know, of like this 19-year-old skateboarder that I had just basically won the biggest contest in the entire universe for skateboarding. And I was on just this crazy rock star kind of high of just like, Alva Skates dominates, you know? I'm here to just destroy. I was totally, the Dutch like pirate Viking in me came out, and I was just like, you know, even though I'm a Mexican, it's like my mom's pure 100% from Amsterdam, from Holland. And that Dutch side of me was almost more dangerous than the Mexican side, you know?
Your pop's Dutch?
My mom was pure 100% from Amsterdam. Niltje Cornelia Agatha Bakker. That's
your pops.
Yeah.
I said your dad.
Steve's Dutch as well. So,
I was asking about your dad. You said
my dad is Mexican, full
Mexican.
on like Mexican
Right on.
and American Indian, and so the mixture was just like basically like, I mean, my DNA was predisposed to a lot of things, including alcoholism and drug addiction. You know,
real
you
question.
Take Amsterdam and Mexico, you got a lot of alcohol and drug. You know,
I got I asked you this question before, but I think it'd be interesting for all of us to know. What's the difference? Is it just a spelling between Alba and Alva?
Well, Alva
Familia
originally
Alva?
comes from Spain, but since the Spaniards came over and just fucking totally like pillaged Mexico, not to mention all the little girls looked pretty good to them, you know, pretty tasty. So the Spaniards basically spread their seed into the Indians, and the Indians became the Mexicans, and the Mexicans came to the States,
Spelling.
and there's where my dad comes from.
No, I was talking about spelling, like Steve Alba, Joni Alva.
Alva is
It's just a spelling
Alva
phonetic difference.
actually is a total like aristocratic family with a coat of arms, the whole thing from Spain. Alba, I know nothing about Steve Alba's family stuff and all that, but I do know that when he wrote for me, he had no problem with writing a board that said Alpha on the bottom.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And the other funny thing though is that people mistake me sometimes for Steve. They'll call me Steve. And I'll look at him and just go, you got your Albas and your Albas mixed up a little, bro. You
So
know,
I'm going to bring in Mark on this because
let's bring in Mark because
Mark, we're going to bring in you. I don't know how much you've been hearing this. We've been talking about Tony and his trip to the UK. Obviously, we've got to ask you, what was it like being on tour with Tony? And also, I should point out, in case anyone doesn't recognise, there's been someone on the Zoom call you may not see very clearly. Steve Olsen's on the call with Mark. So, welcome, Steve. Welcome back, Mark. I'm going to try and hold this mic on the back of the telly so that we can hear you. So, hopefully this will work.
All right. Well, I mean, where do you start? I mean, it was like, you know, there was obviously for those that know Bod Boyle, that was running his company Powerflex, and I guess somehow he hooked up with Phil Labarda, my manager from Max's, and it was a dream come true. Come on, Tony was everyone's hero. He was my hero. He was the bad boy of skateboarding, and I guess I was trying to be the bad boy of Euro skating. And then Bob was like, well, you know, do you want to tour with Tony Alva? I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Of course I want to tour with Tony Alva. And then we went to, I mean, there's so many stories, a lot of which I can't talk about because it's obviously, we've got to keep it G-rated. But, you know, I mean, we went to London. Tony, do you remember Blake's Hotel? I mean, I think things went out the window. We were driving around in some little van with Pete Zender and Win Miller. And it was a dream come true. Come on, it was like, you know, it was Tony friggin' Alva. Come on, it was, so it was a Mad Mark and Mad Dog tour. and we just, and it was just incredible. It was, you know, I mean, you know, the Mad Dog Bowl in London. I mean, everything was mad. You know, the Mad Dog Bowl in London, and we went to the north, and this crazy little van we were driving around with Bod Boyle, R.I.P. Bob, and it was just, you know, like seeing Tony skate. You know, just coming to a new place that he'd never skated before, and you know, all the expectations. And, you know, I said before, Tony wasn't a trickster. He wasn't about tricks. It was about style. And, you know, Tony would just go into a pool, like right off and start doing like micro edges and just, it was just beautiful to watch. And it was a movie. It was a dream. And then, you know, Tony said, you know, you want to come and visit me in California? So Freddie Laker, 57 pounds later, you know, I landed at LAX and spent some good time with Tony. And yeah, we were pretty freaking crazy. It was a movie, memories that last for a lifetime. But watching, like, you know, somebody like Tony come to England, and I think Tony went on. I mean, he'll confirm, but he went on to Sweden. You know, I toured in Sweden also. He went to Europe. He was in Switzerland. You know, all those countries that Tony went to. It was really almost like a recognition of certainly English skating, and we all watched and learned from Tony. And I think everyone's styles of their skating just improved once we'd seen somebody skate. And you know, if we're talking about American skaters that visited England, Shogo, Kirk Tolbert was one of the first also to come. Shogo came, but I think Tony was probably the most influential. I mean, you know, he was superstar status, and it just, you know, his presence in England just elevated all of our skating styles. And if you want to get into, like, Tony was an individual skater. He was Alva Skates. He was Tony Alva. His whole marketing campaign was like nobody had ever seen anything like it. He wasn't a team, and you know, he was Tony Alva, and he's Tony Alva still. And that was, as things progressed over time between, I mean, we could speak for hours about Stacy Peralta and the Bones Brigade and, Jimmy Plumer and Hackett and all the Jay, R.I.P. I mean, Jimmy, we just lost Jimmy, R.I.P. Jimmy. Tony was an individual that just brought star status to skating. I was, obviously blessed and honored to skate, and he changed my life. I mean, I went 15 years old. I jumped on Freddie Laker and went to California, waited 3 hours at the airport for him to pick me up in that blue Ford pickup truck and the Dog Bruiser and Marina del Rey and Malibu and Agon, the ranch. I remember every friggin' second of what Tony brought to England and what I was lucky to participate with. And bless you, man. We're still here. There's a few that we've lost. So it was great to see the American skaters come to England and just see, for us to see in real life, the style. Instead of just looking at pictures, we saw how it could be. And it was just beautiful. So love to you all.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Thank you. So I think there was applause there for you. Steve, come on, we got to bring Steve in. Steve, what did you have any thoughts about the UK scene? Was that something that you knew about in the 70s?
The UK scene. Your thoughts about the UK scene?
Yeah, I thought it was amazing.
Did you ever come to England?
I can't hear.
What do you think about the UK skate scene? What was your memories of the UK? He's deaf at his old age.
Okay, we're not. I don't think we're hearing you guys. I think we're going to go back to the room. Sorry.
I wanted to pick up on. I wanted to pick up on some of the other things that Mark mentioned in there. He was talking about the other guys that also came over.
One of the other things I could just say from like what Mark was saying is that
David,
if you're going to start a skateboarding tour, especially in the 70s, you want to start in England because the degree of difficulty, not to mention the weather and the food at that time was horrible. Everything was overcooked, and I was like trying to be this vegetarian hippie kid. Man, I almost killed myself with vegetarianism in England at the time. Just living off sugar, and caffeine and smoking hash. The rest of Europe was easy, was a cakewalk after England. Like literally, like even Beton Hurlant, in France, and like that half pipe was easy compared to Harrow, you know what I'm saying? So like England gave me the foundation to seriously fucking go off and dominate in France and in Switzerland and Sweden and like all of those places, because after England, that shit was just, it was just very like, it was icing on the cake, really. That was the sweet part, where England was just like, man, we're building something here. And not only are we building it, but if we don't build it right, we're gonna fucking die. So, that was the way. It was building the blocks of like defying gravity, of like what Mark was saying, about like dealing with gravity and dealing with like being able to gracefully manipulate ourselves into positions where we could use nature's forces to do something creative and to do something that's really just beautiful, And when you've got this crazy monster of a bowl or something, that you're trying to make it look graceful and beautiful, really takes some skill, and it takes some ability that only comes from falling and only comes from what I would call PMP, practice makes permanent. Just keep practicing, keep getting up no matter what. My favorite shot at the whole photo thing yesterday was me with the weird scooter helmet on with all the kids on the lip at Romford looking over this crazy bowl. And I'm walking with my board, seriously, like just irritated and pissed because it looked like I had just bailed from a run or something. And I'm just walking away from the kids up to the top of the bowl to take another run. And I looked at that photo and I go, that's it. That's like the feeling. That's the attitude. That's like, dude, the next run, I'm going to show them what time it is. You know what I mean? And just like with the Mad Dog Bowl, same thing. I had no idea the Mad Dog Bowl even existed. They're like, yeah, we have a pool here and it's in a theater and it's rainproof, the whole deal, and it's named after you. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And when I showed up there, I was like, this is insane. This is so good. And to have Win Miller with me, he documented the whole trip. I mean, Win's suffering right now, so everybody say a prayer for him if you get a chance in your quiet moments. He's dissipating physically with this Parkinson's disease. He's not battling it. He's gracefully going with it. I would have loved to have bring him here with me and stuff, but his photos live and are so vibrant and tell his story as well as mine. And it's just, I mean, you know, Mark was talking about me staying at Blake's. I mean, I stayed at a hotel where like Bob Dylan would come and stay and shit. It was crazy. The things we threw out the window were our stinky socks. At the end of the day, we would throw our socks out the window, and I was like on the 3rd floor, and they would land in the tea garden. And we thought we were getting away with some shit, right? We were like, oh yeah, the stinky socks, whatever. We'd laugh, you know, smoke a joint, drink. And then the day I was getting ready to leave, I tried to get kind of all like, you know, sexual innuendos with my landlord. She was pretty hot. She was like this older, rich, you know, English bird. And I got all saucy with her. She looks at me, she goes, you know I'm your landlord, right? Like, in other words, you know, chill out, kid. And she goes, and by the way, I have a present for you. And I go, yeah, what's that? And I thought she was going to hook me up, you know, something cool. She brings all the socks out. They're all pressed and Chinese laundered and everything. She's like, here you go, guy. Enjoy, you know. And I was just so fucking embarrassed. I was just like, oh, my God. So otherwise, I knew from there I did not have a chance with her at all.
So there were other Americans that also came to the UK, and there was the notable Arrow team, which was Jay and Paul Constantinou and Paul.
Dave Ferry.
Dave Ferry also was here.
One of the first guys that came over on his own was David Ferry.
Yeah.
All totally paid for by like drug money and like cocaine and shit. Like all that was really debauched, man. Bob Piercy was the one that lined that all up because he had something to do. It was like, and Bob Piercy, for some reason, nobody even knows how he died. Like he just disappeared one time, like, and just nobody even knows what happened with him. So I could just tell you right now, dude, back in the day, the mixture of like cocaine trafficking and all that shit, there was some dark shit going on in the skateboard industry.
Wolverhampton,
and
Tracknology.
Arrow was, and I could be wrong, but that's how they funded their whole deal. It was definitely connected to some kind of crazy, dark, malicious drug trade.
To clarify, the Tracknology warehouse, the guy who did Tracknology Wheels had this giant warehouse in Wolverhampton. He built up this multi-level skate park. But he was a giant cocaine freak that brought over Jay,
There you go.
Ken Senator, and I skated many times there with them. And they were charlied out every day. I spent
See, I'm
an hour
glad
and
that
45
I'm glad
minutes
that
skating
guys
with Jay
like
Adams.
Jeremy are here to back me up when it comes to my malicious gossip.
This part isn't gossip. This is actually part of your history of this guy, wealthy. I don't know his name. I don't know.
If the British media could have got a hold of that shit, you know how you guys love your little tabloids and shit. There would have been some mad shit on the cover of like, you know,
Bobby was
yeah.
like the reason Peter Stern, loved Peter Stern, he didn't get to this event, but he's a great part of Benji, right? And Pete Stern was our slalom racer, and he was the one who was to match up with Bobby against Bobby. So at Kettering, they were battling, and they were head to head, and you could see Bobby was slapping him. It was a great relationship that one time between Peter Stern or whatever. They were like having words and stuff. It was a real rivalry, right? Competitive rivalry. And then afterwards, I asked somebody to Pete, I asked Pete, what was up with that guy Piercy? And he's like, he's out of his mind on cocaine. He's fucking flying on cocaine. That's why he's so fast in slalom, man. He's the wind and sea boy from San Diego.
So Alex, you were saying how you...
No, not necessarily. I take that back.
Right?
Not wind and sea, bro.
Sorry, Diego.
New break.
New break, yes, new break.
Super hardcore.
Excuse
You think
me, yeah.
wind and sea's
But Diego
hardcore?
guy.
New break is 1 degree even more hardcore. You try to walk in there and surf even today?
I have.
You better know some kung fu. You better be like Joel Tudor and be a jiu-jitsu guy.
He's
like,
correct. It's
like
a
a
very
black belt.
territorial place.
Yeah.
Super
But a super good wave. And you have to hike in and go down these little trails. And if the guys even see you on the trail, they will check you right there. They'll just be like, where do you think you're fucking
Surf
going, dude?
Nazi. That's what you were saying before.
Yeah.
Surf Nazi.
They'll just
Can't
look at
even
you and go,
in.
where do you think you're going, bro? Oh, I'm going to surf. Not.
Yeah.
Turn around.
They spell it N-O-T-SEE, not C. You're not even going in to see the waves. You know, I mean, that's Diego. It's like, no, certain places are blacks if you don't know how to get down there, whatever, you know.
Well, a lot of the time the surf...
We don't tangent, but the point,
But just like the Dogtown boys, you got to understand something about surf culture. You know, it's very territorial.
Bobby Pierce
and
is gnarly.
there's usually a crew of guys you have to go through to even get in the pecking order. Like if you don't have a way to really like establish yourself either gracefully or forcefully into the pecking order, you could paddle out there, sit out there, and not get one fucking wave. They will just shut you down. They will out paddle you. They'll back paddle you. They'll have guys block you as you're trying to take off. I mean, come on, dude. Surfing and skating, I mean, you got to understand something. It's a bit self-centered and stuff, you know? Like, it's pretty gnarly. And see, that's why at a young age, I had to be the way that I was when I was 19 years old. I had to be that way, you know? Everything I did back then is what got me here. But the bottom line is that all of that self-centered, selfish, and self-seeking behavior was for a reason, because I wanted to establish myself as the best skateboarder in the world, and that was the only way that I could do it, you know, and I learned that from surfers, especially the Dogtown surfers, the guys from POP. I learned that from them. I learned it from watching Mickey Dora. I learned it from, you know, just the most aggressive, hardcore dudes, man. Like, these guys were like gangbangers on surfboards and shit.
Arguably the most influential thing to my life, 100%, was watching Tony in the Knievel Leathers kick Hester's ass in that contest on TV. I was like, arguably that was the most, I felt so proud. I was like, yeah, man. And it wasn't because of LA versus Diego, this Northie versus Southie. It was just because Tony was a pool skater and a stylist and a surfer, and it was a guy we looked up to, right? He's our icon, one of our icons, you know what I mean? And so when I saw him just kick ass on Wide World of Sports and Hester just go down to the hip, I was like, so many of us were just like, yes.
Yeah, but you want...
Yes.
You want to hear the most hardcore part about
That's
that?
not kissing your ass. I'm just saying that's yes.
I'll tell you the most hardcore part about it, and the most just slap in the face shit for those slalom guys. They had these high-tech boards. They had these really groovy custom wheels. They had these technical trucks and all this shit. I would come there with a Torger Johnson board, a piece of oak, some shaved down sixes, and a set of frickin' Bennett trucks. And I would go, okay, bring it. Let's do this. You know, and I'd look over at them, like give them a little sneer. I'd be like, you know, and I would smoke them on a piece of wood all the way to the bottom. And they'd get to the bottom and look at me and go like, fuck you. They'd just be like, on a piece of wood that was just had wheel wells in it and a little bit of grip tape on top.
That was
and
a skier
that's
guys
what
with the
pissed them
fiberglass.
off more than anything. All this technical stuff that they had done and all this training and everything was they got beat by a skinny little kid.
The Lacosta boys got
on
humbled.
a piece of like just a piece
Right?
of yeah.
Literally, Lacosta boys got humbled.
They hated that. They just
You and Jay
they
used to
hated
go
it.
visit them. I got a real question. You guys to show up at Lacosta, and like, there's footage of Jay ruling, doing this stuff, and you guys ruling on the hill, him doing headstands and stuff. You know, and when you first got on
Well,
Logan,
I learned
was that
my,
first getting on
my
Logan?
mentor was a guy named Torger Johnson that came from the 60s.
Won
He
the best
was a
trick contest in
world
65.
champion even in the 60s already. And he
Been
was
in
a
the nose ring in
surfer.
65.
He was a skater that could skate every kind of terrain. Like, that was my mentor. That was my guy. So he was like, oh, if you can't skate everything, you're not a fucking skater, dude. You know, you're just some freestyler or whatever.
He
And
invented
he's
nose
all,
breathing,
but
right?
we have to have a good routine and be able to do freestyle as well, because that's compulsory. And so I learned from Torger how to basically be a decathlon type of skateboarder,
ATV, baby.
which is how I was able to actually win that world championship. I had to beat Torger. I had to beat Mike Weed. I had to beat Stacy Peralta. You know, I had to beat like the best overall, just insane skateboarders in the world to get that title. Okay, when I got that title, that was when I started Alva Skateboards. When I started Alva Skateboards, that was when my distributor here, Peter Mento, who knew probably Mark's agent or whatever, goes, I'm selling a shitload of your boards. I need you to come over to England and do a tour. And I was like, let's fucking go. And that's how I ended up here in England.
Did you find that this was a more friendly skate atmosphere here than in California?
Not necessarily. I mean, you got to understand. I mean, English culture. I mean, they're not the most amicable and friendly people when it comes down to like to social kind of situations. You know, I was around a lot of I was around some thuggy situations. You know, and but I wasn't scared because of the fact that I'm a street kid to begin with. Anyways, I come from Venice. You know, I come from LA. I mean, Robert Vargas is here. He's from Boyle Heights. You know, it's just like we got East LA and West LA, and the Chicano culture. We're vatos. You know. And the Vato attitude is like, you know, we're like boxers. We don't back up. We're always moving forward and we're throwing punches. And that's kind of the thing that you learn from being a Mexican kid from the streets of LA. And if you bring that to England, you can survive. You might get your ass kicked and get a few scars on the way, But the bottom line is, you're going to survive. You're going to be able to make it across to Paris and, you know, onward and stuff. Because those countries, don't get me wrong, Paris is a tough country as well when it comes especially to that street culture. But like I said about the skating thing already, if you come to England and survive, dude, Europe is a cakewalk, bro. Seriously.
I'd like to bring this back to James. A question here. There's something that you said in the interview with Mark and Jeremy about the level of their skating and being able to like hold their own in the Hester series, potentially even win. Like, can you talk a little bit about that? Because that really puts into context like the level that these guys were skating at that point.
Yeah, like I said before, it was all kind of just medium skating that we're seeing, and then we get here, and you know these guys are doing airs and foot plants and inverted airs and 50-50s and hand plants.
Ripping, basically.
Yeah, and you know that was the same stuff that you know you see in the Hester finals.
Yeah.
And you know these guys, you know I never even heard of them before.
Yeah, yeah.
And all of a sudden, you know, they're doing the same stuff as we're seeing in all the final events.
But that's really interesting because things are moving so fast. I can't remember what Grosso calls it, like the trick explosion. In a year, so much stuff gets invented.
Yeah.
You know, rock
especially
and rolls
in
and
California,
inverts
it gets
and layback
invented.
airs and so on. So, and we used to see that stuff in magazines, but I'm guessing that must have been 3, 4, 5 months behind the time.
Just even in California, the
Yeah.
magazine was a 3-month
Yeah,
lead time.
so by the time it's
by
got
the time it
to
got
us-
here, it's like probably 5 months.
So these guys are already skating at that level. So Mark,
What did he think?
where did you get that stuff
Yeah, that's
from?
what I wanna know.
Yeah, where did you get that stuff from? And
That's a good question, man. I mean, I guess we just picked it up where we saw it, or sometimes we try to invent our own
Yeah.
stuff. But we were hungry. As skaters, we were hungry, man. We loved the challenge. We loved a new trick. We wanted to get it down. We wanted to always learn something. We wanted to get a pull. If we couldn't ride it properly, we'd be there all night. We'd be there all day. We'd keep going back to the same thing. It was the buzz of skating. It was a buzz of learning that new trick, of getting that new air, of taking it to the limit if you could, you know. And it just went on and on and on. It was just loved and breathed skateboarding. That was it. That's the way I saw it, Jeremy and Tony. It's like
we were also pioneers, which means like adventures.
that's right, man. And
We call them heli flips, 360 flips, the first time in Sharjah.
In
We call them
Sharjah,
heli flips.
yeah.
Up 2 feet. Now some guy does like commercial freestyles, or Mercedes does them.
Yeah.
We were inventing stuff, you know, and then it was personal. In between, each other, like a riff on a bass, like Lenny White talking to Victor Wu.
Well, also, if you look at the history of skateboarding, there was a small window at that time. Skateboarding was the biggest thing ever, you know, it was just like, you know, hula hoops and yo-yos or whatever, you know, when I came here. Within less than 2 years, there was nothing going on in not only the skateboard world, but the skateboard industry, except for hardcore dudes that were still holding it down and going out and skating, whether it was popular or not. See, so the media portrays it in one way, but underground, that's where the real skateboarders are, you know, and that's where guys like this come into play, you know. We did not stop skating. We kept skating, and it went underground even deeper, you know. But meanwhile, the media and sales and all that stuff crashed. They wanted nothing to do with skateboarding when it came into the beginning of the 80s and stuff. It completely fucking died. So, I mean, like, it's significant to, like, what went on in England on my first tour.
That would create the necessity for DIY. See, in a way, like, if you have a collapse and, like, everyone selling plastics and, hey, jump in the skateboard thing, the collapse is important. Less is more, and less change, help you change. So it's like Tony's idea of what he's saying now about the industry and about this time and how it changed so quickly, that was a blessing, because there were so many shitty fucking there were so many poor plastic people trying to sell skateboards. 85% of the ads in skateboard whatever. You know, if you go through it, the other magazines skateboard are, the industry of skateboarding is seen by many people as like, gotta profit or get in it for the toys, get the money off this next generation of kids. It's a little bit sad because if you're an actual person that's really, you're a passionate skateboarder. Your life is skateboarding.
Thank God for our sponsorship with Vans, with Steve
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
what I'm saying. It's
Steve
so that-
carried us through some dark times because Vans went through it too. They rode the roller coaster of insanity that came with like the fads and the trends and the stuff that was affiliated with either the surf culture or skateboarding.
But let's
It's
drop it
not
back.
always
Vans had
been
little
popular.
stores.
I mean, for skateboarding to be in the Olympics now and shit, I mean, with surfing and all, you know, I look at that as like good in some ways and not so good in
So
others.
every
you know what I
genuine
mean?
product, Tony, like Vans started a genuine product. So when I would go up to Costa Mesa and buy was one little store next to the fairgrounds, and I'd get my Vans, and they would be an exact pair of low blues, just like you guys wrote it, Kenter, and that. So there was actually like a surf psychic energy where people already had the idea of, it's not, oh, bird wheels or quicksilvers, like your shorts didn't matter that much. Your shoes, there was only certain shoes that worked. Vans were these shoes with the correct soles, they worked.
And meanwhile,
Then,
Nike's throwing, you know, basketball shoes at us and going like, "Here, skate in these," and like, we would wear them out, and just be like, fuck it, throw them in the trash, go get another pair of Vans.
Right, and they weren't expensive. And again, when a small brand is started by like Steve, his dad, or who his family started Vans, it was a small brand, and they had great Mexicans making great shoes, and I used to go out and order custom slip-on suedes and stuff. It was a very small thing originally, Vans. And that is the reason why Vans is still going.
And can I just say also
core
the
of
first people to do custom shoe wear before we get
Custom
now we
shoe-
get
they're all
everyone's all
custom
obsessed
colorway.
with like colorways and Nike and stuff like that. But actually, I think Vans. I remember Pete Stern coming back with the like Rasta colors like Vans, and it
Yes.
was like, you know, they were the first people like years, decades before anybody else was
If
doing
you guys come to Covent Garden, you'll see like there's some pictures and stuff, you know, not only from being here in England the first time, but pictures of me with fucking shoes on, dude. They are so tattered and tore up. And Steve convinced Paul, his father, to let Betty Mitchell sell me one shoe at a time. So I would get one different color, you know, I'd get one of each. And it ended up that they incorporated those colors into the first skate shoe, the era that we did. And it was just thank God for the fact that Steve convinced his father to make shoes for skateboarders.
No, thanks, Tony. But when you talked about custom made, the skaters in '76, the reason we did the navy blue, red navy blue shoe was because Tony in '75 was going in, okay, the shoes are $8, I can buy one for $4. I'm just going to get a left foot. I think I'll just get a red one. So he'd walk out with a blue one on one foot that was worn a little bit, but the other one was worn out. He put a red one on there. And that's the reason we came up with red, navy blue, red. It was because of that. The same thing was off the wall. That was because Tony, a few years, right that time, came off the wall for the first time and came back down in the pool. I had a 13-year-old cousin that was doing stencil printing on the back of his skateboard, and it was we called it the turtle, the off-the-wall logo, and it was just that outside. And we decided, my Uncle Jim saw that and said, "What's that?" He said, "I just made it up." So we went and put words off the wall inside that, and that's how the label came out. That's still around today from 1976. But skaters at that time could go to the stores or through magazines, order colors. They'd order 7 different colors. We didn't charge like $1, that's about it, more. But they didn't know what they ordered. When it came in 2 weeks later, 2.5 weeks later, cool. If they didn't like it, it sold great in the store because somebody came in. I didn't think you could put that many colors on the shoe, but that's why we did custom made, because of skaters coming in, just kind of being their own off-the-wall attitude and stuff, and making pink on this side, yellow, make checkerboard, put the skate pirate in the back, and the tongue can be orange. So that was it.
And the gum rubber sole,
way
the
ahead.
awful sole is best for skateboarding by far because we didn't have good grip tape even back in the day. We used to take little bathroom tiles, the little flowers off the bottom of the bathroom or the steps, and we'd put them on our
Non-skid.
boards and stuff. So, I mean, the shoes, you could skate the Vans shoes with no grip tape and they would work. So that was another reason why Vans were popular, was first with surfers and then with skateboarders. So it goes right back to what we talked about to begin with, dude. It all started at the fucking beach, like surfing and shit.
I know. But,
Blue low Vans.
but
Herbie
you know,
Fletcher under the pier.
Tony made one comment about the Olympics, which is there's some good, there's some hardcore, there's bad, but all it is it builds more skate parks around the world. Okay, that's the good part of it. The best part was if you saw the last Olympics and you saw any other sport, they're all individuals, don't give a shit about anybody else. You saw skateboarding at its highest when they were congratulating each other from every country, giving high fives, smacking their boards, and the people of the world saw that attitude.
But the bottom line, really, though, I'm going to get back to some attitude here. they need us more than we need them. Because I'm telling you, skateboarding is so popular and kids love it so much. And in every country, even third world countries, skateboarding attracts so much positivity and so much like just creativity and hope and faith and just like the Olympics needs us. And we will survive with or without them.
Can I just say something? I'm going to take it in a slightly different direction here, but it's sort of part of the same sort of thing. So I always wish I was part of Tim's like foes, but me and Johnny kind of around 78, we kind of just go in music and martial arts. So we sort of veered away from sort of skating at that point. But one of the things I think is really interesting that I wanted to sort of bring up about, which I think ties all of this stuff together, is actually Johnny, me, Jules, and Jeremy were kind of part of the original sort of Stussy tribe, which went on to kind of carry a link onto the present. You look at like what that's all birth. But I just want to give a bit more props to Tony here because he hasn't had enough yet. But that actually the Alva logo, and Sean told me this directly when I interviewed him. It's like it's direct. The Stussy logo is directly influenced from the Alva logo. And actually, if you wouldn't maybe not think that if you saw it first, but actually that's the reality of it. And you look at the album, you look at the lettering, and you look at
Sean's signature.
And the Alva logo comes from a guy that way before Photoshop and all the computer shit.
Alawa.
He basically designed the first Devo album cover, the one with the Gino Vanelli thing and stuff. His name is Eric Monson.
Yeah.
He designed my logo. He did all those fucking ads that were crazy with me never skateboarding.
And those ads just fucking changed. Those are like the first new, like that's the beginning of like modern advertising. Like a deck with no wheels, like up on the coping, and Tony's just sitting there like, or the blurred one going, the blurred one going across the shot.
More than half of them, I am so irritated and pissed off that they're making me do these things for the ads. But what happened was it exuded the attitude. Like my attitude just looked like, you know, I was just like, why am I like standing here like a fool instead of skateboarding, you know? But I realized after a while, because of the affiliation with fashion and with music and with all the things that Eric was trying to guide me into, that it started to work because not only was we coming up with really cool new graphics and promoting and doing these full page ads in Skateboarder every month, but I was getting paid for that shit, man. Straight up. I started making money, dude. And to be like a skater that's actually getting paid to do what you love to do, which is what I still do today, thank God, by the grace of God, and 17 years sober, which doesn't hurt. I was at Stockwell yesterday skating, not a rainy day, nobody there, sun came out, 2 BMX guys and a chick that didn't even recognize me, whatever. I'm out there skating, having fun, man, and just going like, you know what? This is amazingly cool, beautiful. Alex was with me documenting, flying a drone over me, the whole deal. I mean, I'm just like looking at my life and looking around at the universe and going like, fuck, like how fucking cool is this, man? You know, and just like, and that's the thing. It's like, if you're a professional skateboarder that your career has lasted like 4 decades already, dude, you better give thanks like on a daily basis. You better get down on your knees and tell your higher power, I am super grateful for one more day. And that's just the way it works. Shogo's gone. Jay's gone. Bob Biniak's gone. The list goes on. I could go for like 100 dudes that are all gone. Jeff Grasso, my good friend that I did the Tony Alva story with, gone. Easy. It's like, I'm here. And I'm here for a good reason. I'm here to carry a message of hope, of experience, strength, and hope to y'all, and I hope that you hear that.
Yes, sir.
We're going to throw it out to the audience. Can I have a mic from someone? Can I grab that one? Tony, I'm nominating you.
This is pretty epic, by the way. This is amazing, man. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to tear up. This is really bad, but sorry. Just a defining moment for all of you guys in your career of skateboarding, and obviously for James. Obviously for Tony, like the World Championship, like that's amazing. Just if I can just take one from each of you, that would be incredible. Just a defining moment in your career, your skateboarding. If you can come up with anything.
One moment, yeah. Go, Jeremy.
The defining moment.
I'm sorry.
What's the defining? Is that? All right. Okay, we'll stop. We're going.
Alex, please.
It's going to be the least impressive, and we'll go along here.
Right. The single most defining moment in Alex's life.
Just getting your photo in Skateboard magazine. Seeing a picture of yourself in a magazine.
The Kidderminster. Wait. The Kidderminster photo of you grinding in the book of skateboard. That photo was great. The full page grind of you at Kidderminster. Are you speaking to that?
But the first one was just actually, and they got this wrong because me and Simon
He's in a
drew
book.
the ramp, the first ramp competition in Bristol, which was the first British skate ramp competition. We drew, me and Simon drew for first place on that. In my interview in Skateboard magazine, they said I came second, which was kind of a diss. But I think that was and actually the first photo was me, was like that one kind of wipe, I think, overspilling in the black bowl. But look, any photo, but just that's it, man.
Photo and skateboard. Brilliant. Tony, defining moment?
My moment was very similar to what he just said. I was in junior high school. I thought I was the shit. I had my girlfriend with me. I had clay wheels, a custom-made, handmade board with wax on it instead of grip tape. Old funky pair of Vans, deck shoes, whatever I could get. I thought that I had it. I was like, my junior high school, middle school contest. There was this guy named Ross Powell of all things, too, a fucking Powell guy. And I was competing. He was a 9th grader. I was like a 7th or 8th grader. I was like, I'm going to kick this guy's ass. I'm going to win this contest and shit. There was like a little bank with a wall ride even. It was at Lincoln Junior High School in Santa Monica. And I was like, I'm going to win this. You know, my little girlfriend's there, watching me. I'm like, I'm going to do this for her. I'm going to do it for me. I'm going to do this, man. And fucking Ross Powell beat me. He beat me in the fucking contest. I went, did the temperamental thing that I used to do back in the day. I took the trophy and snapped it over my shoulder, threw it in the trash, whatever, and I looked at my girlfriend and just started crying. And I was just like, and she's all right. She goes, you were the best anyways. I love you, blah, blah, blah. Typical little cute surfer girlfriend. And I was like, I think I just went and just totally inebriated myself. And I just looked at myself in the mirror and I go, that will fucking never happen again in my entire life. And that was it. That was the defining moment. That was like where I was so full of it's like Robert and I were talking about this. Los Vatos, physical pain, bring it on. We can take as much as you can get put on us. But emotional pain, whew, pobrecito, we cry, turn into the biggest wimps and just so hurt, with like the emotional pain. But physical pain, we can take as much as you can give us, So at that point, that was the breaking point for me where I was just like, I'm never going to get beat by anybody like that again. It was humiliating. I'm going to be the best no matter what. And it drove me to do that. And when I won the world championship, I brought the trophy and the check, and I showed it to my Mexican dad, and I said, look, Dad, look what I did and stuff. And he looks at me and goes, And he goes, so when are you going to get a real job and shit, And because my dad worked third shift for Hughes Aircraft for 40 years, come out of the Korean War into the aerospace industry in LA, which was huge. Make a long story short, he looks at me and he goes, so what are you going to do? And I go, professional skateboarder. And he looks me straight in the eye and goes, there's no future in that. Another defining moment. I was like,
thanks, Tony. John.
It was either the best thing or the worst thing he ever said to me, because I was like, fuck you, I'll show you.
John. Pass the mic to John. Defining moment, if there is one. Maybe it's everything.
It would have to be the cover of Skateboard magazine in 1977. Yeah. For sure.
The invert. Yeah.
I was very proud of the time that my toe was sticking out of my shoe with the hole in the bottom.
Oh, the front side air. Yeah.
Actually, anybody know who took that photo? That photo?
I'm looking at Tim. Do you know? It wasn't you, but do you know? No.
I do know, but I don't know. I've forgotten.
Oh, we'll look it up. Yeah. Mark.
How many covers did you have?
Just the one.
You two.
Two covers.
You had two.
Did anyone else have more, or do you have more covers than anyone else? Because those covers were both amazing.
Issue 19, Amplant, Rolling Thunder.
Yeah.
Tim Shot.
Yeah.
John Perkins, that's it. Yeah.
Collective knowledge of the room there.
Good thing we
Mark.
got some scholars.
Yeah. Mark, defining moment.
Well,
Mine was quite simple, actually. It was a frontside hand plant at Marina del Rey, because I've been trying to practice those. I thought they were the most beautiful looking trick. And when I got it down, man, it was just, and it went so well. It was just so smooth, and you're at a weird angle, and you're going up blind, and then but you can kind of look down when you come in eventually, and I just hit it, just nailed it, and that to me, I still love it. That was my moment. So,
James.
Yeah, I was right out of high school and walked into Skateboarder magazine, met with Warren Bolster with a stack of photos of the San Onofre pipes, and absolutely blew his mind, and immediately he said, this is the next cover of the magazine, and I was the first person to get a cover of Skateboarder magazine besides Warren Bolster at that point. And it was the photo of Greg Ayers.
Wait, he's not. I have to back him up. He's not saying, actually, that was a very dangerous thing. There's a nuclear power plant that's now closed. It's the most toxic thing in Southern California, San Onofre power plant. And you would have to, north of the 5, you'd have to go up, and you would have to trespass. And this is Marines, San Pendleton. So it's no small task to get to Super Tubes where these pipes were.
You could drive in if you told the guys at the gate you were going to visit your brother. And
Well, the fact was
yeah.
My dad made the machine to build the pipe. So we knew the pipe was coming like a year before it was actually made. And my dad talked to the manager at Amaron and convinced him to let us come in there and skate. And they let us do it. And then after it was published, all of a sudden they got all these requests, to build these pipes for skate parks, and other people wanted to ride them, and then everyone started sneaking into them, and then they were all pissed off at my dad and me. Go, look what you did. You turned us into monsters.
But the best thing about those pipes they were the first pipes that were offset. So you could actually fly from 10 o'clock from one pipe to the next. They were the only pipes that we ever found that were perfectly suited for aerial transfers. And they were like 23 foot. They were huge.
Yeah,
Fuck Jeff.
Yeah, we actually rode.
So, Jeremy.
It was Hackett and I were the first ones.
Jeremy.
We rode the first.
Jeremy,
2
we
pipes.
need your defining moment.
My
Yeah, and we're
defining
gonna get
moment-
Besides Jeff Tatum.
No, he's not my
No, I'm just
I was just trying to say
I love to fuck with Jeremy.
I
He's
seen
like
the
easily
photos.
fucked with.
Yeah, we have a great
Easy to
tennis
fuck
match
with, Jeremy.
going all the time. Irish and Mexicans do get along. And this is my story. We get along great. They make great babies. Mark Gonzalez.
We fought
Irish
together
and
in a
Mexican.
war.
That's right, you're right.
We fought together in a war.
So the Irish and
Against the
Mexicans. You guys we all look up to Mark Gonzalez, right? Tony sponsored him early on, right?
Yeah.
Early on. So my point and my defining moment is that when I was living in New York City, helping with skateboarding evolution. I'm a freestylist originally, but I love skateboarding and transition and pools and ramps and ditches mostly. It's surfing, right? Oriented my love. But my freestylist thing evolved because when I moved to the city, I was like, these guys like, oh, what, do you used to skateboard? I was like, yeah. And I do a couple freestyle tricks in Washington Square, and they go, oh. And then there were some guys who were still doing freestyle. But it was 82 to 84, this period of time in New York City. So there wasn't that many skateboarders. There was like 7 of them. And so I met one of the ones that both Tony and I are very close friends with, Andy Kessler. Yep. So Kessler and I became tight, and he was famous, like, El Raton, which means he'd steal people's skateboards all the time up in Central Park. And so he's also a guy who was, unfortunately, had a drug habit. So my most influential...
But had 25 years sober before
Oh, no, he
died.
ran NA. He changed people's lives, right? So,
Yeah.
But bless and rest his soul, Andy Kessler.
He was the original Zoo York guy, too, right?
Arguably part of that crew, yeah, for sure. Papo Catalino.
Told you we like to
Puppet,
fuck with each
Zephyr.
other.
Puppet and Zephyr. So my time in New York, 11 years in New York, I got induced and adopted just like you all did for me here. Thank you very much. You know what I mean? And what I was trying to tell you is in New York City, we started doing street skateboarding, right? And we were integrating, as I said in the interview with him, basically we just integrate everything. So later on in New York City, the same philosophy of Theos is going on, and so we're taking the freestyle that we had and this and that, and we're doing it now with the obstacles in the way of the city, stairs, handrails, etc. So Mark Gonzalez comes and stays with me, and I told him about South Bank. And I had a lot of John Coltrane and good jazz collection at times, so I told him all about jazz. So I think the most important thing to me is when actually I thought I had no influence on Mark, and we were just friends that skated and did handrails together You know, at night, we'd skate 2 to 5 a.m. on handrail missions. And this is the late 80s, right? I went further on. Mark is visiting me. He's running away from Vision. And I give him a lawyer's number, and he calls up Dorfman, and then he quits Vision, and he's like, I want to stop around. Long story. So he comes and stays with me, and then the first thing that I do with him is I learn handrails. The second thing I do with him is I learned independence. That you can be your own boss, and you can help skateboarding. You could try to be a conduit and help skateboarding move forward. So when I told him about South Bank, he went back and made a video. He came back to me and showed me video days. And he goes, look, Coltrane, South Bank. And I was so grateful that part of my tradition, just like I told Steve Douglas, thank you so much for helping us not be forgotten. So part of our tradition of skateboarding as freestyle is you shouldn't see some guy doing a Mercedes commercial now and getting paid 100 grand like you do for freestyle, or whoever that guy is. You should see actually how it's evolved and notice that the freestyle has come into all the lip tricks and the way it's going on. They separated these concepts, street style, ramp, park, this and that. But come on, ATV is the concept we're saying.
Yeah, it's all
bring it to another level, all terrain vehicles.
Exactly.
So when Mark gave me the Video Days video, what changed my life was Coltrane and him writing South Bank in the intro.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was Tai Chi, like forward, back. I gave him some, he gave it back.
Brilliant, cool. We're going to bring Mark in. Mark, I don't know if you can hear, we're asking for your single defining moment in skateboarding, in a nutshell.
What's the time limit?
Gosh, that's a tough one. Probably my first show I was going to say in Paris at Beton-Yulon, but I'm not going to say that. Probably doing a drop-in at the Harrow Bowl off that tiny little lip.
Yeah. Yeah, did you drop into the performance bowl? Yeah. Yeah. You dropped the performance bowl. Yeah.
I wasn't gonna do it. There was a big crowd there. There was that tiny little lip. Thank God somebody videoed it. I was just pretending I was gonna do it, but there were so many people there, and that was that gnarly, bowl there. It was the death bowl or whatever it was, and but I couldn't back out, and I actually made it. So yeah, that was a terrifying moment, and I mean, there's so many. You can't ask for one. There's so many, but that's a moment.
Yeah. I mean, that isn't one of the most insane things anyone's ever done on a skateboard in Britain. Okay. We're going to draw this to a close. I'm going to pass to Don. I think he's going to wrap us up.
Oh, microphone. Here we go. So before we end this, I think organising this thing has been incredible. Respect to all you guys up here and ladies. But there's a lot of other people here who were very important in the 70s, right? And it's not possible to have everyone up here on the panel. So what I would like to do is get anyone that had a picture published in that period, just come down here. One big community, one big family, get a photo of all the people. So Thea, if you can come up. Steph, get down here. Jock, come down, please. Everyone up here on the stage together.